entities, which makes it economical for people to participate in a global financial system. I hope that Cardano will be involved in many different parts of someone's life. So when they do a mobile money transfer, when they do a remittance transaction, maybe even when they're going to vote in their local elections. So the end state for Cardano is the plumbing which drives every form of value transfer and interaction between one person and another person. What I love about the Cardano community is how mission-focused we are as a group. A lot of the other cryptocurrency communities can seem quite transactional, always just focused on the price and thinking about what their positions look like. People within the Cardano community understand that we're trying to build something bigger, and that makes it a much more pleasant place to be a part of. Going forward into 2022, this will be the first year that there will really be a community starting to build tools for Cardano and not just input output. So yeah, it's really the first year where we can really talk seriously about an ecosystem. The more people who are participating in it, the more diverse opinions you have, and ultimately these diverse opinions lead to better debates and better outcomes. So a place where it's safe for people to raise their thoughts and not be shut down. That's the kind of ecosystem which I'm hoping we can build. Within 10 years, I hope that Cardano's hit its billion users, that we're driving loans, financial value all across the world. I hope that mobile money systems are all running on Cardano rails. When it comes to the next 100 years, I really have no idea. So if I'm around that long, then I hope to see it. Goguen finally allows us to start building financial contracts. So an insurance contract, a derivative, a swap, a lending contract. None of these things were possible on Cardano until this moment. We have Plutus, our smart contract scripting language, and Marlow, which is more focused on financial contracts. Together, this means that not only can we port over large pieces of the Ethereum decentralized finance ecosystem, but also start innovating by ourselves within the ecosystem to start taking these concepts forward and shifting us from DeFi into the RealFi era. So one of the things which I'm very excited by is that working through a partner called Possession in Kenya, we're starting to lend from cryptocurrency balances directly into small and medium-sized enterprises in Kenya. This is one of the first pilots that we're doing in the RealFi space. So really connecting up cryptocurrency liquidity to real-world loan and lending opportunities. We hope to scale this from a small pilot run by Input Output towards a pipeline of opportunities which ADA holders all across the world can participate in. I think the team at Input Output is so amazing that even when you're working hard and trying to move forward on some problems which can feel intractable, the quality of the people around you is really what helps you to carry on slogging through. I think our work around governance and digital voting is probably some of the most important work that we're currently pursuing. These problems have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Political theorists have been working on this across all parts of the world. What we're trying to do at Input Output is to start to create the technology stack that enables people to create their own voting systems, be it in local communities or small organizations, rather than just on the nation state level. So when it comes towards increasing the participation of communities within these sort of state superstructures, I truly believe our governance work is pretty revolutionary. We're hoping that within a couple of years, we'll have a blockchain voting solution, which we can start to test out for real-world elections. But in terms of what we're doing now, we've launched our Global Catalyst Fund. This is the world's largest decentralized fund, sitting at over $1 billion of value, which is distributed according to a voting system, which our community participates in. So we're already starting to work on this idea of internet and distributed voting systems, and we hope to see that evolve and start to impact real-world elections in the coming years. IO is committed to working in Africa in a way that I think few other blockchain companies really are. I'm based in Ethiopia, which is where we head up our African operations, and we're looking to expand and open offices this year within Kenya and also South Africa. We're running a developer training course for people who want to learn Plutus in January and February in Ghana. We'll be training 70 students there on how to write our smart contracts. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes towards the investment and the commitment we're making across the continent.
What's going on, guys? I'm just refreshing it right now. Not sure why I don't hear anything.
Permit, where the population of participating parties is changing dynamically, whereas typically the literature assumes a fixed set of parties, and achieving clock synchronization in such an open ad hoc network has been open for many years. So if you're interested in the details of how this protocol works, it will appear at this year's Eurocrypt conference, which takes place in a few weeks. So if you're interested, just stay tuned for the conference talk recording that will.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's no sound to the end of that one, guys, for the keynote. I didn't really get anything out of that. That's where, Let's see, we got Ouroboros family, the ending of exploring models for creating a Cardano nation, our NFTs, the future of creative pursuit. And we have linking together a stronger and layered blockchain. like that's over. I don't know. What do you guys want to watch? Spory Mouse. NFTs. That's it. Not hearing any sound. So, not quite sure what is going on. See what this is about. Nothing going on here.
In the long
Whoa.
of the world, constantly providing translations for new information that comes out, as well as the backlog of very technical and very important information that needs to be translated. And we can't expect people to do that for free. I mean, I doubt if very many people in the Cardano community earn their money from doing nothing. And you don't do things for no money. Right? And we shouldn't expect people in Asia or Africa or Latin America to do this work of building up the ecosystem for nothing.
Cardano, of proof of stake blockchains, is that of fast chain bootstrap. So by having this signature scheme, we can have the different stake owners of the system to validate given checkpoints of the chain history, so that when we have a new client or a client that has been offline for a long period, rather than going throughout the whole transaction history to validate the final state of it, it simply needs to go through these checkpoints in order to be convinced that the final state is valid. So having given this overview, I'll now hand it over to the other speakers. And firstly, we'll have Piros that will talk about the protocol design in a little bit more detail. Then we'll have Roman that will present some use cases of Mithril. And finally, we'll hand it over to Galois and Idyllic Vision, which are IOG's strategic partners for the development of Mithril, so that they can discuss how they will develop the protocol. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the talk.
So I'm Piros. I'm a researcher at the University of Athens Blockchain Technology Lab, and I'm one of the co-authors of the Mithril research paper. Now, in the design of Mithril, there are three core ideas. The first is to leverage the stake in order to obtain efficiency. The second is to have what is called a transparent setup. This means that the setup that needs to happen does not require increased trust or a very elaborate ceremony to take place. Another core concept in the design of Mithril is that of modular components. So even in the initial research paper, we have two different proof systems, both transparent, that can be used to have different trade-offs between size and efficiency. So to elaborate a bit on how we are able to leverage stake, consider the base scenario where we want to produce a signature that presumably talks for the entirety of the stakeholders. The simplest way to do that is to ask each and every stakeholder to sign the appropriate message. Now, that would certainly be a possibility, but it would also be hugely inefficient. There have been constructions called multi-signatures or ad hoc threshold multi-signatures that aim to obtain a similar goal while being more efficient, but there are still unsolved issues with regards to malicious parties not taking place and scaling with the number of users. On the other extreme, what we could do is to simply hold an election between stakeholders, elect a single person as a leader, and ask them if they're supporting a particular message or not. That might work, but there is a high probability that the user we select might not be an honest player. So the solution we arrive at is to leverage stake and ask a small group of shareholders to sign that message. So a more practical solution is to only ask a certain number of shareholders to sign this particular message. We do that in the following way. We will hold M individual lotteries, and we will consider a message to be valid if it has been signed by K different winners over those lotteries. Now, the way we do that is that we let each user attempt to sign the message and then pass their signature through what we may consider a lottery function. Now, this will allow individual users to check if their signatures are eligible as winners of lotteries and output those signatures without waiting. This is different to what is happening on standard blockchains such as Cardano, where slot leaders need to wait for the time their slot is active in order to participate. Then, once we have K signatures over different lotteries, we can aggregate them into a single Mithril signature. Now, in practical terms, the design of Mithril features three phases: setup, initialization, and operation. And we have built Mithril in such a way so that it is simple to reinitialize it without repeating the setup. This will be very relevant in some of the applications, as the initialization varies with the stake distribution. Now, to set up Mithril, we need to fix the group setting where the cryptography will take place, select the index range M, which is simply put the number of elections we will be holding, and the quorum size K, which again is the number of election winners that need to sign a signature for it to be accepted. We also need to provide a reference string for the proof system, but as we've already mentioned, this can be done in a transparent manner and does not require any high trust assumptions. Now, for initialization, the first thing to do is to update the stake distribution. This lets every stakeholder know how much stake they're holding. Then each stakeholder is responsible to register their keys, and this can happen either on or off the chain. But as it is a common function on most blockchains, this can be performed relatively cheaply. Finally, the stake distribution and attached keys are compressed. In the design we have, this is done via Merkle tree. This allows Mithril signatures to then be verified against a single hash that represents that Merkle tree. So the size needed, the size of the state needed to verify a signature can be kept low. In the operation phase, users are able to produce, aggregate, and verify Mithril signatures. Now, as we mentioned before, producing signatures consists of users attempting to sign and checking if the signature they produced is actually a winner on one of the lotteries that are being held in parallel. If that is true, the users will broadcast their signatures. And if there are enough signatures supporting a particular message over different elections, then they can be aggregated into a single Mithril signature. That signature can then be broadcast, and it can be verified by anyone only using the reference string for the proof system and the very short Merkle tree hash of the stake distribution. Right. So to finish with the design, we'll go through the process of a single user creating a signature with Mithril. So to start off, a user will check the amount of stake they're holding and pass it through a score function to obtain their score threshold T. Then they will attempt to produce a candidate signature S. Now, for each index, they will evaluate whether the candidate signature they produced paired with the message they have just signed and the index number of the lottery they're checking against produces a score value that is less than their threshold T. If that is true, then the candidate signature they produced has actually won the lottery on that particular index number. If not, they will just try the next one up. Now, after they have tried all possible indexes, they will have potentially one or more indexes for which their signature S is actually valid. For each of those indexes, they are able to output what in Mithril is called an individual signature that consists of their candidate signature, the index number for which it is valid, and a short proof that verifies that their score is indeed consistent with the stake they have registered in the stake distribution. And as we said before, what happens next is that these individual signatures are broadcast, and once K of them have been produced for the same message and over different index numbers, they can be aggregated into one single Mithril signature. Right, so now we can move on to the next part of the session where Roman will talk to you about the applications.
Thank you, Piers. I will go through Mithril use cases, taking into account the whole planned architecture of the system that is being under analysis and development now. On this slide, you can see high-level representation of software run by stake pool operator, its connection to Cardano peer-to-peer network, Mithril nodes peer-to-peer network, and a Mithril client connected to the node run by stake pool operator. Mithril node at the SPO platform accesses verified blockchain at the local storage and runs the protocol to produce Mithril certificates that are kept at the Mithril storage. Dedicated peer-to-peer Mithril node network is used for that. When necessary certificates are already produced, they are kept in the Mithril storage and verifiable sync among the whole network. Thus, the stake pool operator is ready to share both the full Cardano blockchain as well as the list of valid Mithril certificates for it. Next, when a Mithril client connects to the network, it requests a list of Mithril certificates and asks only for header of the longest chain of the Cardano blockchain. Several SPOs can also be independently used for that. Then the Mithril client verifies that certificates fully confirm the obtained Cardano blockchain. The whole procedure is a lightweight one and will not require involvement of significant network storage or computation resources. Let us also note that Cardano full node sync and fast sync with Mithril procedures are not mutually exclusive. They can be run in parallel. Mithril fast sync will be later Mithril can be run on mobiles with a fully trustless approach. The mobile client is a Mithril client that uses its certificate obtained from the Mithril node. The procedure is comparable with the SPV verification for proof-of-work blockchains, and with advanced security settings, it's potentially more efficient than SPV blockchain verification. The same procedure may be applied to implement so-called wallet-as-a-service add-ons. Imagine that some user software requires to process transactions on the Cardano blockchain, like in computer games or somewhere else. There is no option to implement a full node wallet, but this user software may use Mithril signature for trustless access for external APIs. Here we get lightweight, trustless, and secure operations with Cardano blockchain provided for external software. On the next slide, we can see a further application of Mithril signatures for running sidechains. We have the main Cardano blockchain and some external sidechains to be connected to the main chain via forward and backward transfers. Moreover, these sidechains might have different consensus protocols. Application of Mithril also allows efficient, lightweight, mutual blockchain state verification, like for already given examples. Thus, certificate validates the current state of the specific blockchain, as well as correctness of forward and backward transfers in a secure way. And the last example of Mithril we thought about till the moment is stake-based voting application and governments. Regardless of the voting protocol complexity, there is totally results for elections made by this protocol. The voting protocol should provide universal and individual verifiability, as well as other important properties. But totally verification may require significant computation effort and storage amount, as well as underlying synchronization of blockchain. Mithril signature may be used for secure and lightweight totally verification in this case. The stake-weighted voting procedure is also useful in governance, when stakeholders go through a decentralized decision-making process and provide the final result in an easy and verifiable way. As for now, that is all about the main application fields of Mithril we already thought about. As you can see, there is a deep math theory and security proof behind it, as well as a wide range of application options. And now I'm passing the word to implementation team. Joel, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joey Dodds with Galwa. We're the group that's going to be developing a prototype implementation of Mithril. I'll start off by letting you know who Galwa is. We're an advanced R&D firm. We spend most of our effort working on formal methods, cryptography, and correct hardware implementations. And we tend to work for quite a wide range of clients. Our main client is the US government, including the Department of Defense and others. We've also done extensive work verifying, formally verifying cryptography with AWS and blockchain companies. And we've done numerous other cryptography services with a range of commercial clients. We're very excited to be working with IOHK. Galwa and IOHK have a lot in common. Both companies really enjoy formal methods. We look to use advanced formal techniques to make everything we do better. We are a Haskell shop primarily. We spend a lot of time working in Haskell, but we do it when it makes sense. Haskell is not always the right tool for the job, including in this case for the initial implementation of Mithril. And whenever we get the opportunity to, we really like to transition technologies that are enabled by cryptography. And we're going to be undertaking a prototype implementation of the Mithril protocol. So we're taking all of the theoretical work that's already been done on the IOHK side that you can read the papers about, and we're going to create an implementation in Rust. And the reason that we're using Rust in this case is that it's going to be ideal for very fast, but also safe prototyping in order to show that Mithril is going to make sense when it's implemented in code. There's already a healthy cryptography ecosystem in Rust that we'll be able to pull from. There's numerous existing open source efforts that we'll be able to utilize in this effort. And we're going to be taking, again, the IOHK research directly out of the paper and implementing it. So what we're eventually gonna release is going to be an open source repository that's complete with a fully documented Rust API that's meant to be easy to use. But also it's going to include the ability to use multiple proof schemes as we mentioned earlier in this talk. And those should be able to be swapped out without having to worry about what's going on under the hood. So it should, initially we're starting off with the simpler of the two schemes, but then later on we're going to move to the more complex scheme, but that also uses smaller signatures. The implementation will also be delivered with a full test suite to help developers understand what's going on internally, but also to ensure the correctness. And then we're also going to be developing thorough benchmarks to give a great sense of the performance of this library, as well as to provide ongoing information about performance as the library evolves. So right off the bat, we're going to deliver an implementation of Mithril. This first implementation is only the beginning of where we might take this work. Following on, as we mentioned, we might be able to do smaller signatures with bullet proofs. So this involves being able to swap out the proof method for the smaller proofs. What we're delivering, while it will be fully documented and tested, will still be a prototype implementation. There will be lots of work to do in making this production ready and making sure that it would be ready for prime time. And in the long run, again, Gala's specialty is formal verification. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to do formal proofs about the correctness of Mithril going forward.
Hello, my name is Alexander Brezhnev, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Idyllic Vision. And our vision is that we can solve some of the biggest challenges in the world using blockchain and self-sovereign identity. And together with our partners, right now we're building a self-sovereign identity protocol based on zero-knowledge proofs that allows centralized and decentralized organizations to verify identities of their customers without acquiring and storing personal information of those persons. For example, you can prove that you are over a certain age without showing your documents and sharing your date of birth, or prove you reside in an eligible country for a specific application. Also, we are developing a credential management system for organizations and a mobile wallet for end users that supports interoperability between diverse SSI solutions. And our previous experience includes projects we built on public and private blockchains, various blockchain scaling solutions, and a few past projects in partnership with IOHK research team. So involvement with Cardano and Mithril is a natural evolution of our fruitful cooperation. In the current project, we are planning to implement a proof of concept of Mithril node in the following month. We will begin with creating a blueprint of solution architecture, define a number of system components that should be developed and organically integrated into the existing infrastructure. This includes integration with Mithril crypto library and Cardano node, and also networking layer for communication between nodes. The result of this phase should be integrated into the Cardano to enable fast bootstrapping of the node and add support for extra functionality like lightweight clients, as already mentioned. This might look straightforward, but there are challenges to solve. We need to solve how network discovery should work, how do nodes exchange keys for the threshold multi-signature, how do clients verify certificates. So as you can see, we have a lot of interesting work to do and challenges to overcome. And that is all I have for today. Thanks for listening.
All right, so this is the talk for today. I hope everyone enjoyed the content of it. As you can see, we have a lot of exciting work in the near future. And do follow closely the progress of Mithril, and we'll hopefully see this soon being used in Cardano. Thanks for listening, and see you in the rest of the summit.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in on the Crypto Airborne's channel. I do daily news updates. I'm going to see what they have going on next. See, we just watched Mithril linking together a stronger and lighter blockchain. Also got community catalyst Come meet the builders, creators. We got come meet the proposers. Looks like nothing too crazy right now. We got smart contracts. Include is developer experience. That's probably going to be boring to a lot of people unless you're a developer. Cardano CIPs, emerging standards. And then we got the future of wallets on Cardano coming up here soon. Maybe I'll put that one on. That'll start in about 4 minutes. That'll bring us all the way to our next main stage event, IO research, the why, the what, and the who. Then you got a bunch of other stuff, Alonzo and beyond. Growing the Cardano ecosystem, mobilizing communities. I think 625 might be a pretty good update from the Cardano Foundation. 7 o'clock, this is going to be pretty good. 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard. I wonder who the special music guest is going to be. Talking NFTs. You guys have any ideas there? But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw on the future of wallets on Cardano. This is from 5:05 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. But yeah, let's jump into that, guys. Still looks like we got a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to show you guys kind of the virtual world they have. You can like join conversations and stuff. I guess people are having. It's kind of interesting while we're waiting for this to load up. So let's just join this chat. What's up, guys? Can you hear me? Unless since I have the what's up, guys? Can you hear me? I guess they just don't want to talk. It's all good. Let me turn the background music off. We can mess with your avatar too. Alright, looks like we got this starting here soon. Just make sure that. Okay. So that was the ending of the Ouroboros family, but yeah. About 2 more minutes left for the Ouroboros family. Or not the Ouroboros family, my bad, guys. It's been a long day. Like I said, also they got a kind of a collecting items. They partnered with Terra Virtua, where they're gonna 1,000 people will mint, I guess, something if you find these. And I just kind of been like walking around and they just show up. I don't know. I've never really found them. It's kind of weird. I don't know where the gentle turtle is. But yeah, that should be beginning shortly. We have the future of Cardano wallets. That's what we have going on. Hopefully in the next minute. What are you guys up to today? Smash that like. Oh,
all right, hello everyone.
Here we
Welcome.
go.
We're having a forum today. What we have is a panel of people who are wallet developers, wallet experts, product managers, and we're going to be discussing light wallets, some of the pros and cons to light wallets, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a light wallet, and the different features of light wallets. And today we have Matthias, Sergio, Alex, Marcel, and Sebastian with us. All are experts in some way with working with Cardano blockchain, working with different types of wallets. And I'm going to be the moderator. So I'm going to moderate the process here. I think you're familiar with my background, so I'd like each person to tell us a little bit about yourselves. Let's start with Sergio. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and yourself, please?
Yeah, definitely. So my background really has been following the blockchain for the last 5 years, and recently, like over half a year ago, I joined Emurgo, where I took the lead of leading all the development of the products that we develop here. So I'm really managing all the products at Emurgo, and of course, Yoroi. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Alex, please.
Yeah, so I'm the product manager for wallets and services at IOHK. So I've joined IOHK for about 2.5 years ago and been in the blockchain space for about 5.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And often known as K-Tours, Matthias.
Hey, so yeah, I've been working on Cardano for about 4 years now, mostly initially on wallets, then working with Alex on the Cardano wallet backend and assimilated services. And more recently, I've switched focused on Hydra and more on the research side, trying to bridge a bit some of the research work into the engineering, but still with a quite heavy focus on getting things in the hand of users in the form of wallets or anything.
All right. Thank you, Matthias. And Marcel, please.
Hi, I'm Marcel. I'm CEO at Tastenkunst and Titan proof stake operator. I started working in the space, in the Cardano space, 2019. And from that pool operation, we evolved a bit and are now working on a wallet, on a community wallet.
All right. Thank you, Marcel. And Sebastian.
Hey, my name is Sebastian. I've been in the Cardano ecosystem for about 3.5 years. Originally, I was part of Emurgo, where I was the co-VP of engineering, leading kind of the Cardano team. So at that time, I was leading the Yoroi wallet development. I was also working on specifications for Cardano related to wallets. And I was also leading the development of the REST SDK for Cardano that's used by most wallets today. Nowadays, I have my own company that I started with Robert Kornacki and Nico, who's also ex-Emurgo. And our core focus right now is trying to enable Cardano to talk with basically Solidity smart contracts. And that includes the full stack from being able to chain the smart contracts together to integration into wallets as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian. So we have the representation from different areas of the community here: Adrestia, Yoroi, Daedalus, and soon to be becoming a form of Daedalus Light Wallet, and CC Wallet Cardano Community Wallet. So good representation here. And a quick summary that Alex and I had discussed prior to this recording was what is this session about? So for the viewers, wallets have played a pivotal role in allowing crypto holders to safely store and access their digital assets. Daedalus and Yoroi brought ADA holders to the ability to stake and vote, and new community wallets are joining to compete. In the session, you'll learn about some of the innovative ideas that will inspire the wallets of the future. So with that said, let's get started into what we're discussing here. We touched on our background story. That was one of the initial, like who's who in the zoo here. The next one is, should I stake my ADA on an exchange, and what are the pros and cons for using light wallets? And we don't have a specific format. So whoever would like to touch on that first, going into the pros and cons of why users should use wallets as opposed to exchanges, and what is the advantage of using a light wallet?
Well, I'll start with that one. That's an easy one. I think the majority of sort of like crypto enthusiasts will probably be very much against staking your ADA on exchanges. Like, there's the old saying that not your private keys, not your money. And actually staking your ADA on an exchange, it's the exchange that is making the choice for you. So it's almost you're taking away your voting power, and then your delegation power in this case. So I definitely personally wouldn't recommend doing it on an exchange. However, there's always the trade-off between full nodes and light nodes, where if you have as we call it, a non-custodial, or you have the private keys of your light wallet, that can be like a very fast and light experience, while the full node wallet will be a more secure, albeit a bit heavier experience for the user. So yeah, it's dependent on what kind of user you are, really.
Yeah, and if I can add to that as well, if you don't mind. So one of the benefits of Cardano is that everything is done mostly on the base layer through the same kind of address scheme, which means that if you have your own wallet as opposed to having your ADA on an exchange, you can hold NFTs at the same time that you're staking. You can use smart contracts at the same time you're staking. So not only does taking your ADA off an exchange allow you to stake your ADA and get the rewards yourself, it also allows you to take advantage of all the other kind of features of the Cardano blockchain and the whole rest of the ecosystem. So, this is the best thing to do. And at the same time, if you take your ADA off an exchange, you can then delegate it to a single pool operator. And so you're helping to decentralize the network. And especially if you're a DeFi user, helping to decentralize the network is hugely important because that'll make DeFi applications on Cardano safer and faster as well.
Thank you, Sebastian. So can we go into what are the advantages of using a light wallet as opposed to a full node wallet? And I got to tell you, one of my favorite full node wallet is, of course, Daedalus. I've used others like Emerald, but when it comes to full node, there's a little bit of a burden on the user. So what are the advantages to a light wallet? Why would users want to use one of those instead of a full node?
Yeah, so one of the main advantages is just portability. You can take your wallet wherever you go. You don't need a strong computer. You can have it on your phone, on any kind of tablet device. And so that makes it much easier for users to use. You also have quicker access. So you don't have to wait until a synchronization. Usually synchronization on light wallets is in a few seconds instead of hours. So these are kind of the main benefits. Now, see, the disadvantage is that you're kind of at the whim of the server that you're using. So for people who don't know, light wallets mean that instead of downloading the full blockchain to your computer, instead only downloads the transaction history related to you. So it means that you're trusting some server operated by whoever's operating the light wallet to give you the correct data. Now, there are some ways you can kind of mitigate this. So for example, Yoroi, one of the things it does is that when it downloads the data from the Emergo servers, it actually stores it locally. So that even if the Emergo servers go down or whatever, you still have access to transaction history. If you want to sign transactions locally without internet connection, that's still possible. So you have, light wallets that, kind of fully depend on the security of the server. Some light wallets, like Yoroi, kind of give you kind of a bit of extra, data stored locally for convenience. And then IRHK is obviously working on research to improve this further. So you may hear about the research paper Mithril, which is a way to use light wallets while still having better authentication of the data is accurate on the servers, not give you inaccurate information about the state of the blockchain.
Thank you, Sebastian. And following up on that, Marcel, can you tell us a little bit about CC Wallet and how CC Wallet helps the user interface for people to access their tokens on the blockchain, their native assets, and so forth?
Yeah, sure. We started as a normal wallet. We wanted to do all the basic stuff. And listening to our users and especially the Cardano NFT community, they wanted more features in a light wallet, especially when it comes to displaying their tokens. Currently, before the start of smart contracts, those were mostly image-based or interactive tokens that are stored on the blockchain. And we give them the possibility to filter and search their NFT tokens conveniently in the wallet, and they can see what they have actually stored and can easily send multiple tokens and so on. So CC Wallet currently is mostly used by CNFT enthusiasts.
All right, thank you, Marcel. And I got to be honest with you, I used all three wallets. I have Daedalus, I use Yoroi, and I just started using CC Wallet. And I'll just go to one. I don't know why. I'll just say, okay, I'm going to go to this one this time, and I'm going to go to that one for some other reason. But thank you for that. And so next, can you, between Matthias and Alex, can you tell us a little bit more about the current state of Daedalus as a full node, and what are your plans for Daedalus light node?
That is that's a good question. All right, so I mean, the current state of Daedalus is very much around following the chain, making sure that like the correctness of the chain that you store locally, and making sure that these features that are becoming available in each of these eras are able to be used within Daedalus. However, we are realizing that like the chain is becoming more and more used. There's more and more application on it. So what we call the chain density or the chain users is becoming higher. So it's becoming harder for a full node wallet on a regular desktop to follow the chain. So we are looking into various mechanics in order to make it easier, lighter, and higher performance. But at the same time, we're also realizing that for the majority of the users, a full node wallet is not necessarily the best way to go forward. So for the majority of the users, we'll have a light instance of an IOG wallet, and we are thinking about perhaps using Daedalus as an enterprise track that we'll use for for larger institutions that are wanting to run operations on the blockchain.
I don't know, to be frank. I mean, Daedalus has, I mean, it's becoming heavier. Yes, it has to follow the chain and download everything. But on the plus side, it doesn't rely on any server, right? So that's still the nice part about Daedalus, which is that you connect directly to the Cardano network. And the main advantage of that is right, you don't need any server. But right, there are many scenarios where you don't really care about trusting necessarily the network, and you are just fine trusting a certain company servers to get the data from you. So there is a clear use case for light wallets in IO, because we also want to build solutions on top of that, right? And with the smart contracts now arriving with the Alonso era and all the things that is to be developed with that, it's easier to do that through light wallets and through either browser-based wallets or mobile apps than to do that with full-blown desktop apps. So for interoperability with all the dApps that are to come, there is a need to have also a light wallet solution. So yeah.
All right. So can someone tell me how the current light wallets work? What in the background provides the data for the current state of light wallet? Things like Cardano Scan, the block explorers. How does that work? And what are the plans for the future? What does that feature?
Yeah, so most wallets right now are running a tool written by IOHK's addressed team called Cardano DB Sync. And basically what it does, it looks at the state of a node, saves it to a database, and then the servers create that database. Now, the question is, how do people actually connect to this database? And there's kind of two main platforms being used right now. One of them is written by Emergo, and that's a kind of Cardano GraphQL wrapper. I believe it's named the library. It's kind of a long one. And the other one is BlockFrost. So these are like the two main providers. So many different wallets out there are actually using Emergo's setup, and many wallets out there are using BlockFrost. So these are the two main providers. Not everybody wants to trust, somebody else's server. So some people take the open source code and redeploy their own instance and connect to that. That's currently the state of things. So obviously, as the ecosystem is growing, people are writing more ways to create light wallets, more ways to interact with the code base to kind of distribute, who's in control of the servers where light wallets are getting their data from. And so that's where projects like Ogmios come in, which basically provide different interfaces with different trade-offs. And other wallets are now actually using Ogmios currently in production to get data for their wallet. So it's great to see kind of a growth in the number of libraries with different trade-offs and different servers being spun up and different people building businesses off of, running servers for users. And that's how people are connecting nowadays. Now, with the addition of smart contracts on Cardano, this actually adds a new dimension because there's serving of just regular wallet data, which is, as I mentioned, has the existing, 2 or 3 main solutions. But with the advent of smart contracts, now we also have to be able to serve smart contract information for wallets. And there's a tool by OHK called the PAB, Plus Application Backend, that does serve this information, but unfortunately, it's not quite well suited for light wallets at this time. It's more like a full node based application. But over time, we'll see more and more tooling come out to help facilitate light wallets connecting to smart contract systems. Just like we saw originally with Cardano, and during the initial release, there was only kind of one API for connecting to light wallets, and now we're having a more rich and diverse ecosystem.
What are the advantages of Ogmios over DB Sync, and why would a developer pick one over the other?
That's a good question. And it's mainly a question of where you want to put the level of abstraction, right? So DB Sync, let's say, does a few choices for you, a few opinionated choices for you, right? It creates a database that has a certain structure and put everything in it. Then you have to query that database. But that's quite a heavy setup, right? You need to have a PostgreSQL database running. You need to have this whole syncing running, and you are kind of stuck with the database interface. right? If you don't like it, if you don't like the schema, you want something else, well, too bad. Ogmios is like something that sits at a much lower level because it mimics the current Cardano node interface, right? The nodes to communicate with each other or to communicate with DB-Sync or Daedalus, for instance. They have a specific protocol that we call the node-to-client protocols that have been designed in-house by the IOG networking team and that are tailored for that particular purpose of streaming blocks from a node to a client. They are much lower level in the sense that they give you access to blocks, right? Raw blocks with all the information they have in it, headers, transactions, certificates, and whatnot. So then it's your job as a client application, consuming those blocks to filter them out and to drill inside the blocks to find the information you're looking for, right? So it's not necessarily structured in any similar way as a database. It's just a stream of blocks, and you have to organize it the way you want. But at least you have the flexibility to organize it the way you want, right? So depending on the, I would say, the amount of knowledge you have and the amount of effort you want to put into organizing the data yourself, you might want to prefer one solution or the other.
You don't have to prefer one over the other. Sorry, just wanted to add to the whole setup thing. At CC Wallet, we use both Ogmios and DB-Sync. Ogmios for live data. It's just running alongside the node and querying the rewards from the stake addresses. And for all the history data, we do use DB-Sync currently. So it's a good synergy. And I just want to thank everyone on this panel specifically for providing such good tools to the community.
Yeah, that's actually right. They are not necessarily competing tools. You can use both for different purpose, right?
Yeah, same for us at the Murgo. At the moment, actually, we've been using we haven't been using Ogmios for a while, but we are now exploring it to have this two sites where you can actually source the data and manipulate them in a different way. So that's something we're exploring at the moment as well.
Well, that's fantastic. So you have a both solution. That's nice to hear. And Sebastian had mentioned earlier, he brought up something called the Plutus, Plutus backend. And there's another thing, the DApp connector. Is that the same thing? And then getting back to the users, how does that help improve the user experience? So what is the DApp connector, Plutus backend, and how does that improve the user experience?
Yeah, so I mean, as Sebastian rightfully pointed out, like the PAB for light wallets isn't available yet. So having smart contracts in a light wallet is currently not available. But if we do look at a lot of the setups, right? So the Plutus application backend is more the administrator of the smart contract rather than the executioner. Executor, not anyways. The DApp connector, which is actually quite a nice tool, allows a Plutus application backends that are stored on a server somewhere to over the browser actually connect to a light wallet. So a user can actually connect to dApps without actually having to run a Plutus application backend locally.
All right, thank you, Alex. Now, there are also other community wallets being built for specific dApps. There's the Giro wallet, Card wallet. Redodo, I believe, is building an app to interact with their smart contracts as well. So what is the best wallet currently for smart contracts? Is it Daedalus as a full node wallet, or are there light wallets available to interact with smart contracts for the users?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So the dApp connector that we have currently for Cardano is based off specification that me and somebody called Rob wrote back when we were at Emergo. And this dApp connector is written pre-Alonzo, right? So it means that the functionality available is kind of the core wallet functionality. And so people have already started taking this core wallet functionality, implementing it into their own wallets. And so that's why you see there's a few light wallets out there like Nami that have this kind of like basic support for very simple dApps. And that's what people are kind of integrating and playing around with. Now, obviously, this is good for dApps that don't actually require smart contract execution, but to support full smart contract support from a light wallet will require not only an iteration on the kind of Plus application backend and the support for that, but it'll also require an iteration on the specification for connecting dApps to light wallets themselves. And I'll see there's many companies interested in having this happen, and people have differing opinions on how this should be done. And so there's kind of a lively discussion in the Cardano improvement proposal repository about this topic. So if somebody's watching this panel says like, oh man, I'm building a dApp and I really need this functionality, or I wish this was available, now's a good time to go to the SIP GitHub repository and voice your needs for your wallet, because we're currently, talking about how to extend this specification for Alonzo's specific smart contract functionality.
So if I can add to that and try to answer your question, Rick, as well. Right, the dApp connector we just mentioned is more than being a tool. It's actually a standard, right? It's a standard which explains how, wallets, how you could interface a wallet and a dApp. And what's the best wallet for doing a smart contract at the moment would be any wallet that is actually implementing the dApp connector. Because that means that ultimately you would get the same features that you would get in any other wallet that also implement this standard, right? That standard will evolve, as Sebastian said, to provide all the necessary features for running dApps. So if your wallet also implement that standard, it means it's also compatible with a whole bunch of dApps that will be following that standard. So I would say that's the best bet. Stick with wallets that implement that standard and make sure to also contribute and voice features you need and things you want to see included in the standard.
That's an interesting feature. So if the dApp connector is being used on the back end of a wallet, it is possible for that wallet to display multiple dApps instead of having to use a different wallet for each different dApp. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, it's not really the wallet displaying the dApps. You can really see the wallet as a dApp itself, right? Let's get a bit meta. But it's just a way for the wallet itself to interact with other dApps, right? dApps will need to spend funds at some point, right? The whole point of crypto and decentralized finance is to make transactions. So you want to spend money at some point, and the money is held by your wallet, which means that every dApp, they don't want necessarily to rebuild all the features, the core features of the wallet, of managing your UTXOs, signing transactions, and whatnot. And you also don't want to trust every single dApp with your keys. So what you want to do as a user is to only trust one dApp, which is your wallet, to hold your keys and do things correctly, and then give permissions to other dApp to interact with your wallet, to have access to your UTXO and to sign transaction that you have, granted, that you have allowed. And that's exactly where we're going, in an ecosystem where you have dApps, which are just doing their dApp features, right? I don't know if it's an NFT dApp, maybe it's displaying NFTs, maybe it's allowing auctions on different NFTs. And at some point when you need to make a payment, well, it sends a request to your wallets via the dApp connector, right? And that request is making a payment of this particular amount, in which case you get prompted by your wallet. There is this dApp wanted to make this payment. Do you agree? Yes, no. And this whole interaction of things happens through the dApp connector.
Yeah, just to expand on that, Rick. So essentially, this comes down to be like an integration, or really like a bridge between the dApps and really the wallet, and really give operations to the dApps that they will go through the dApp connector if they are implemented in such a manner, right? So that really, from a user perspective, what you will see is to allow or not to allow given actions that they are of course accepted through the dApp connector, right? So think it that way as a bridge or an integration or an API between the dApp and the wallet, right? That will implement that dApp connector specification.
That's good to hear. It gives me a bit of a warm fuzzy, because when it comes to security and authenticity of wallets, so what you guys are saying is, as long as I can trust the wallet, I don't need to trust the dApp with my keys. Now, the dApp is going to do whatever the dApp does. Could be a gambling dApp, could be some type of loan borrowing dApp, whatever that is. And I don't need to necessarily trust that as long as I know what it does. I just need to trust my keys with the Light wallet in front of me. So with that said, how would myself as a user, how would I know a little bit more about the security of the Light wallet? How would I know that it's secure? Because that's a common attack vector that users have to face, is they get nefarious URLs that ask them to enter their private word seed, right? And then they get compromised. So how does Light wallet security work, and how can I as a user be more assured in that I'm using the right light wallet? What are some methods I could use?
Yeah, so one thing that is kind of the best way to solve this problem is to use a hardware wallet. So the benefit of hardware wallets is not only do you get the security, but you also get access to all wallets at the same time. One thing that's super tedious about using wallets is that oftentimes different wallets have different functionality. And so for one feature, you may want to use CC Wallet. For another feature, you may want to use Yoroi, or you may want to use Daedalus. And for us at DC Spark, we're writing a wallet called Flint that's mostly focused on our sidechain. So we want the sidechain to connect, Solidity style smart contract. And so if you want to call it Solidity style smart contract, you may want to use, our specific tool. But having to maintain all these different wallet installs is sometimes a little tedious. But if you have a hardware wallet, you get automatic portability across all the different applications. No matter which application you launch, no matter which wallet you launch, you're always just pressing accept on the same hardware wallet, and you get the same wallet restored on every application. So hardware wallets are not only a great security feature, but also a great usability feature as well. Now, not everybody has or wants to spend the money on a hardware wallet, despite the fact that it's not that expensive. And so if you have to use recovery phrases and you're not sure if you can trust this wallet, the easiest thing you can do is make sure you're downloading the right thing. Check user reviews, number of downloads, this kind of information. And also, as you're using a wallet, first try it with kind of a test recovery phrase and look at the network tab in your browser. So all browsers, Firefox, Edge, Chrome, come with a debug tool with the network tab. And if you look at that network tab, you can see what is getting sent to the Light Wallet server. And so if you just restore kind of a dummy wallet just to test it out, you can see what is being sent to the server and decide based off the data it's sending and receiving whether or not this wallet they're testing out is actually real or if it's malicious.
Yeah, I think additionally to the hardware wallets, those are a great point. It comes like twofold here as well, which comes those that are more on the technical side, they could review the actual implementation of those wallets, right? If they are open sourced. So there is that always an alternative for new wallets coming out from the community. But for those that are out there already and exist, the best method for anyone really about to download the different apps is to really follow the formal and the real websites of the companies that are offering those wallets, right? To ensure that you download the correct one. And additionally to this, I think as all the communities should do an effort as well to improve the education about Cardano and what really, that you shouldn't be sharing your recovery phrase and all this, right? So there is still an opportunity for the community and all the companies here to help with that education for any newcomer on Cardano, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of using the hardware wallets and also triple checking the URL, that you have the correct URL that you are using the wallet, the Light Wallet on, right? Because those are all very important for user security. And the next part we were going to touch on was the different mobile or the different web browsers. I mean, so what are different web browsers of compatibility? What's the best web browser to use with the current selection of light wallets? For example, we have CC Wallet. Does it work in Opera? Does it work in Brave? Or do you need to stick with the meat and potatoes of Firefox and Chrome? What do you guys think about the different web browsers, and how do you verify that? How do you get that compatibility with the different web browsers?
Yeah, nowadays, nowadays we have quite a good compatibility between the browsers. I come from a background of online advertising 5 to 8 years ago, and it was a nightmare. Currently, they're all working on standards and following them through. And the only thing that we fight with is that is a problem is privacy browsing. So if the user selects to delete the cache of the browser on closing the website, then obviously all the locally stored data about the wallet is lost. But if they have their recovery phrase or just have their hardware wallet, they can easily pair it again with the Light wallet. It's no problem. With CC Wallet, we implemented a export in form of a encrypted JSON file that you can just store locally. So you don't have to deal with pairing or your mnemonic phrase again. You just load that file. You can have it in the cloud and load it on your mobile phone. So it's easy to move the wallet around to use it with our website. So even if you have Brave and it's getting rid of all the data on closing the tab, you can just easily import that wallet again. So that's how we circumvent this privacy feature.
Yeah, if I can add to that also, so there's kind of two main types of light wallets that exist right now. One of them are standalone websites. For example, CC Wallet is a standalone website, Daedalus is a standalone website. And then there are browser extensions, such as Udoi, for example. And so for browser extensions for like Udoi and what Flint will be, is you have to actually download it from the Chrome store or the Firefox store. Now that means that to get these extensions updated, similar to Apple, similar to Android, you need to actually be approved by Chrome and Firefox. And sometimes they don't play nice. There's been many times where Udoi was temporarily removed from either Chrome or Firefox. Other wallets in the crypto ecosystem have had the same issue, like MetaMask has had this issue as well. Gnosis Safe has had this issue as well. So with browser extensions, more than a compatibility issue, there is a certain gatekeeping issue, with these platforms that can sometimes just choose to hide a wallet. From a functionality perspective, usually most things are supported across browsers. Usually the one thing that has trouble with cross-browser compatibility is hardware wallets, because for a hardware wallet, you need to actually connect to USB devices or Bluetooth devices on your computer. And the different platforms don't like exposing this kind of functionality. Now, Chrome is the most open about exposing all your information, any opportunity, because Google can take advantage of that, and so they tend to be like the easiest to implement for hardware wallet support. But at the same time, they extract as much information as they can from your system through that. Other platforms like Apple and Firefox are more restrictive about what they allow apps to access and how they allow it to access. And so that causes more friction with hardware wallet devices and some functionality, because that is not available in Apple and sometimes may not work that well in Firefox. But this is kind of the trade-off that was mentioned earlier between privacy and functionality.
Thank you, Sebastian. How do we see these wallets evolving, these light wallets running inside a web browser, whether it's with an extension or not? How do we see them evolving with smart contracts and the dApps? What are you guys doing moving forward to get smart contracts displayed so that users can interact with them inside the light wallets?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work going on Plutus, on the Plutus side, to basically enable this. Now, the Plutus initial release was kind of a let's get something out the door, and so that's why it's only available for full nodes. We do have an internal plan I'd say we as the ecosystem, like a plan of how to bring Plutus to light wallets, and so we know all the requirements, all the functionality that is needed, and those need to be built. So there's a certain amount of it's in the works, it's coming, but in general, there will be some friction due to the nature of Haskell code and the limitations of writing Haskell in the browser. And so we'll probably see a new kind of wallet come out as well, which is like a more of a hybrid between browser and desktop. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see in the future browser extensions that use browser extension specific functionality to allow connecting to applications that run on your computer. And you can use this to basically run a smart contract execution framework on your computer that actually runs the smart contract and connect to it from your browser. So I think probably this will be one of the fastest ways where people will be able to actually connect smart contracts to their wallets. And I'm excited to see if anybody tries that out. Some other projects like us at Flint and DC Spark, we're going kind of a different direction, where instead of trying to focus on this, we're instead focusing on Solidity compatibility for the Cardano ecosystem, so that through our wallets we'll be able to provide functionality for Solidity style smart contracts on the Cardano blockchain, and that's kind of our main focus. So there's different streams all being tackled kind of in parallel, but different teams. And so, these will all eventually come out probably at different times. And because they're technical in nature, I'm sure nobody wants to commit to a specific date. But hopefully you can see there's kind of different approaches people are taking. And I'm excited to see which ones come out first and the different trade-offs each one has.
Thanks, Sebastian. What about with Daedalus and CC Wallet? Are there any similar plans to run local apps and the wallet connects local, or are you going to retrieve it from a centralized server? How's that going to work?
So for CC Wallet, I have to say that our small team didn't look into smart contracts yet. We are waiting for solutions that Sebastian just mentioned to have an easier time to implement it. We will certainly go for a browser extension as well at some point, just to reassure people that it's all running locally. And for smart contracts, I guess we are talking with some of the swaps that are coming up on the chain, and they will hopefully also have some technical insights for us how to connect to their platforms.
All right, thank you, Marcel. Now I do have to say you did a great job displaying native tokens in CC Wallet. So when I want to display native tokens, I'm now going to CC Wallet. When I want to see my reward history, look in Yoroi, because you can put the same wallet in the same browser, right? Yoroi is really good at displaying reward history, and then Daedalus is all around just fun for me to play with. And for me, for some strange reason, Daedalus tends to be a little bit more reliable connecting sometimes, especially near the turn of the epoch. But that's just in my particular location with my internet connection. So a little bit more about Daedalus. Are there plans for a Daedalus Light wallet in the future?
Yeah, no. So as I was alluding to a little bit earlier, we do think that the full node wallet is a bit more for enterprise applications, or at least that's the direction that we want to take that in. So we do want to make sure that for our current users of Daedalus, we are also getting like a lighter wallet experience. So there is a keynote talk that I'm doing about the IOG Light Wallet experience, and we'll be sort of like displaying some of the features that are coming out in there. So it's probably best to watch that one. But yes, there is definitely a strategy to sort of merge all the products that IOG is working on the sort of one umbrella, and then allowing anybody to use that, and hopefully that will be an experience that is going to draw your attention, Rick.
Excellent, thank you, Alex. So for the viewers, be sure to check out the other presentation at the Goguen Summit here that Alex will be providing more information there. So that would be great to get more details. Gentlemen, we covered pretty much everything we had on our list of items that we wanted to touch on. The background and staking with exchange or with wallets. What is the best wallet? We didn't really touch on what is the best wallet for NFTs yet, but that kind of goes with the tokens. Does anyone have an opinion? What do you think is the best wallet for NFTs so far? Is it Daedalus, CC Wallet, Nami Wallet, Yoroi? What do you think? That was one of our talking points, so you got to get your inputs in.
Well, what I can say from Yoroi perspective is that at the moment we are improving, and soon enough, like next week or the following one, we're going to be releasing a better way to really visualize your tokens and NFTs, and then additionally improving all the way that we are sending the different native tokens. That's in the short term. In a bit longer term, like for midterm, really, like in a month or so, we are doing a big redesign, as I'm talking in the presentation separately, where we're going to bring in like an NFT gallery and really a way to see your whole portfolio and be able to operate with all the native tokens, right? So we understand there is a huge push from the community with anything to do with NFTs and native tokens, really. Therefore, we have reacted, and we are really improving the way we'll display those and really operate with them from a user perspective.
All right. Thank you, Sergio. And I'm glad I went through the summary here of our key points that we wanted to hit on. One of them I had missed was on ranking. So on ranking, the question was, how can we do better with ranking? Currently, Daedalus displays the stake pool rankings with the non-myopic method mathematics running in the background. And with Yoroi, it is pulling the data from ADA pools to get the ranking from there as well. So some of the key complaints I've heard from people with the ranking is that, especially in Daedalus, it'll cut off somewhere between 550 and 575, and it'll stop ranking the pools. And then from there on, they'll have the same number attached, for example, 575, and then they're all orange. They're like a really dark orange, meaning that they're not going to display. So that was one. And the other one is that there are wallets down below in Daedalus that fall into that above the 500 range. And it'll say that what are the rewards for that wallet, and it will say the rewards are 0 when in fact those pools are actually providing rewards. Those are two of the most common complaints. So what are y'all's thoughts on ranking, and how can we do better?
So I think I'm considering this is definitely a complaint that we've seen in the community, and something that we've been trying to address within Daedalus. So it's probably important to realize that the non-myopic ranking function comes from the node, and as everybody knows, like the node has been working really hard in order to deliver Goguen. But at the same time, we have been able to sneak in at least one of the promised features. So there's the desirability as addition to sort of like the non-myopic ranking. So that should be coming out Daedalus pretty soon. Again, it's of a technical nature, so we're not tying down to it yet, but it should be coming out pretty soon. And then at the same time, I believe there's another talk which is not for me, about two new types of ranking functions. Now, one of the things that we have been talking about is like, okay, well, whatever ranking function you're going to create, like somebody's going to be at the top and somebody's going to be at the bottom, and somebody's going to be unhappy. And that's that's unfortunately the nature of the game. But I'm happy to hear different opinions about it.
Yeah, well, I like to expand that actually. From Yoroi, we're exploring two different paths. First of all, to really move from a ranking to more of a recommendation or score, similar to the some of the agencies do ratings, so really a rating, so that there is a clear criteria and there is not an actual ranking of top 1 and top 3,000, but there's actually different buckets and segments where you can fall in, right? And within those, like, you can go into more of a random selection or different ways to display them, right? So that there is no such a stake pool that falls really down below, right? That's one. But at the same time, we want to allow, and we are discussing it at the moment, the ability for some of those stake pools to promote themselves with an easy way to stake, right? So at the moment, they need to scroll down or say their ticker to their to the Cardano holders. But the idea would be to really find a way to implement an easy way to stake and delegate to that given stake pool. Imagine on their website, if they have a website for the stake pool. So sort of having like a widget or a way to interact from that website or promotion or Telegram, wherever that is, and then find a way, in our case for Yoroi, to directly delegate, right? So the entry point for the users is easier and they don't need to search or scroll down. So all the information could sit outside of Yoroi, but then integrated down into Yoroi for the quick delegation from an stake pool perspective.
Yeah, I would like to add that I'm really looking forward to multi-delegation, where we can just choose certain pools of pools. And then this ranking problem won't be as huge as it is now. So if you are looking for charity pools that are just a list of 20 pools, then you can delegate to those. If you want OG pools that were here in the ITN, you can delegate to those pools. All of your ADA distributed on all those pools. So the ranking will get less significant in the future, and I'm looking forward to that.
On the front side, or is that something on the back end, or is it both? How's that going to work?
Yeah, we have to display the different pools you can choose from, and those portfolios, those are called portfolios, will have a certain weight on all of the single pools that are on that list, and your ADA will be distributed evenly onto those pools. The specification for that was done via a Cardano improvement proposal, and it's ready to be implemented. So yeah, we just, as a wallet ecosystem, just need to do that now.
Thank you, Marcel. That's excellent. So I guess the key focus there is to make sure it's easy for the delegators. Matthias, please.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think I know exactly where you came from, Rick, sorry, because you've been part of the ITN, so you've seen like all the Yarmogander nodes and whatnot, right? And there was this feature at the time where you could have multi-delegations done at the protocol level, which was a thing there, but that was not kept with the Haskell nodes in the end. And the reason for that is the amount of complexity it adds on the ledger, right? So at this stage, the multi-delegation is handled purely by the wallets, and it's a solution done by the wallet clients. In a way, it organizes the stake key management and how we choose to create that portfolio and make sure that the right amount of stake is dedicated to the right stake pool. So that's sort of a shift of complexity onto the wallets, but that's for the best because then we keep the layer one less complicated and focused on managing smart contract, managing the ledger state, and making sure that it's all safe.
Okay, so that's more of a feature that could be implemented in any wallet if you keep it on the wallet side, and then the creators of the wallets have different methods they can use to present that to the users to allow them to select different groups of pools. Does anyone have a time horizon, maybe in the next year, by 2023, it's possible we could have multi-delegation because users are interested in that. Stake pool operators tend to be a little bit more vocal about things like ranking and multi-delegation, but I have heard from users who are interested in multi-delegation. Any time horizon on that or guesses?
Yeah, so if you want this to be implemented at the protocol level, the main thing is that the team at IOHK that's working on the core protocol was busy with Alonso, right? So trying to add in another protocol feature would mean delaying the Alonso release, which is not really something that we wanted to do. So now that we have Alonso out the door, there's kind of more options that can be done. So if you wanted to kind of voice your opinion about, what should be included in the next hard forks like Babbage, now's the time to make these kind of Cardano proposals. Now, obviously, these are fairly technical in nature. And so unfortunately, it's hard for any, person to come in and make these proposals without deep knowledge of mathematical specifications in Haskell. But part of the Cardano 2026 roadmap or whatever it's going to get called is trying to distribute the development of Cardano to have it not just be HK, but have it be kind of a growing ecosystem of companies building out the ecosystem. And so if people want to be involved in that kind of process, if any companies are interested, now's the time to kind of get started. There's Catalyst and other funding methods in Cardano to basically get your company funded to do this kind of core development work. And IHK and other companies in the Cardano ecosystem are more than happy to work with people on this.
Awesome, thanks, Sebastian. I did not know that the next hard fork was called Babbage. I guess named for Charles Babbage. All right, so the last key point, and we are done here today, and that is the question was, how do we think wallets need to evolve to make crypto more available to the mass markets, or in other words, more user-friendly? So what are your takes on that? What do you have for us? How do we make it better?
Okay, maybe I will start, and maybe it's a controversial take on that, but I do think that wallets should stop trying to be too simplistic, right? In the same way, if you have your car and you have the car manual, you can deep dive into it and repair things yourself, right? You just have to follow the instructions, right? And to use the car, you don't have to know how it works. But if you want to, go underneath and do some of the stuff yourself, you still have the option to, and that's how you learn in the end, right? Like with any system. So I think on the long term, the wallet should give more and more control to users on how they can do things, how they can interact with every little components of their wallets, so that people can start learning a bit more about crypto, learning more how it works, how things are behind the scene. So of course, by default, when you enter a wallet, you get some very simple interface. There is some hand holding for you, and you get this a soft onboarding to the process. But as you get to know more how things work, you want to dive a bit more into it, and you want to understand how it's happening, how things work. And I think it's important for people to understand, and that's the whole point of crypto in the end. You are in charge of your own credentials, of your own assets, of your own funds. So you got to have some level of understanding of how things are going, right? Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes. And that's the same question you asked earlier. How do you make wallets more secure? How do you prevent people from getting scammed? Well, you educate people, right? And you get to teach people how to take care of their assets, how their keys. And they don't have to understand how the protocol works on the nifty details, but at least they can steadily get to know how this whole machinery works and turn on more complex features as they advance. But that's only like my take on that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are actually at the end of our time, so I don't think we have the time to actually respond to this controversial comment right now.
Okay, thank you, Alex. On that note, we will be wrapping it up. So looking for in the future a little bit more simplicity with the user ability to turn on the more advanced features, similar to how Yoroi is now. It has the simple and advanced option. And as smart contracts and dApps continue to deploy, there will probably be features there where you can either hide or display things as needed. So that would be a great way moving forward. In my opinion, I really like that concept. Thank you for that, Matthias, Sergio, Alex, Marcel, Sebastian. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Alex, I'm going to hand over the last words to you, sir. Wrap us up. What do you got for us?
Oh, the honor is great, Rick. Thanks. Yeah, no, I would like to thank all of our panelists for their great contributions and their insights. And I believe some of you even have follow-up conversations and follow-up talks. So be sure to view those as well. And I hope everybody's having a great summit.
All right, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We are going to be transitioning over to the main stage. Whoa. What in the world happened? The whole world just changed different colors. But like I said, we got about 3 minutes before we're going to head over to the main stage. And we have the IO research, the why, the what, and the who. And then we have another keynote, and then another Flex utility. So we got from 6 o'clock till about 6:55, and then we got 7:05, Charles Hoskinson with a special music guest talk NFTs for good. And then that should end us day one Cardano Summit 2021. Make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button while you're here. CKB Nervos Network. I just ordered 2 gold miners to start mining CKB, guys. So, all right, let's head over to the IO research. I will post that IO research, the why, the what, and the boom. So yeah, they changed the world and everything around a little bit. Interesting. Sound changed. Ew, I don't like that. Oh, you can do I. Oh, this is pretty cool. This is the whole world. Yes, this is live. Craig David. This is 100% live, real time. We are getting ready to go to the main stage here. In about 1 minute, they should be starting IO research. The why, the what, and the who. I'll be streaming right here on the main stage all the way up to the very end. Charles Hoskinson and a special music guest. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's like a turtle. Interesting. So let's go back to third person. Looks like they haven't started yet. Like I said, 1 more minute and then I'll start that. So let's see. Gentle turtle. Maybe that's how you find this last hidden thing, is flying around here or something. You really can't move. Looks like we're starting here soon. Let's go back to third person. Enjoy, guys.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angelos Kalias, Chief Scientist at Input Output and a professor at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, UK. In this presentation, I'll give you an overview of input-output research,
the work that has been carried out so far and what lies ahead. The research mission of Input-Output is to contribute to the blockchain space in three fundamental ways. First, by performing foundational and applied research to solve the many critical open questions that this technology has brought forth. Second, by disseminating the research outputs freely for the benefit of all, allowing both timely access and subsequent development to take place by the community. And third, by supporting research efforts of the whole community, contributing to peer review of other people's work and sponsoring research conferences and other dissemination efforts. Now, you might ask why research is important and why we should invest in it. Basic scientific research, both applied and theoretical, is essential for the blockchain space because it allows us to resolve fundamental issues related to correctness and security of these systems. Correctness is paramount in blockchain technology. Blockchain protocols and smart contracts are components of a critical infrastructure. As such, deviations between designer intent and runtime behavior can be catastrophic. There are many examples of that nature that have plagued the space from early on. You can start from the infamous DAO attack in the Ethereum blockchain to the very recent Polynetwork hack. There is a list that goes on and on. So basic research provides techniques and methodologies for ensuring correctness of computer systems, both at the platform level and the application level. Security, in the sense of resilience to faults and resilience to participant deviations, is another central property of the blockchain space. It is also a very elusive concept. Post factum, after an attack takes place, let's say, lack of security is observable and demonstrable. But then it is also too late. So security, the absence of such events, the absence of attacks, means that nothing bad will happen. But how can we establish this? It is not enough that the system security is a proposition that makes sense to the average user, or even that the system has been reviewed by someone who is competent, who tried to attack it and then failed. What is needed instead is first principles modeling and proofs that demonstrate the system retains its security against any plausible attack. To achieve this, we need theoretical foundations. And these include mathematical models within which systems can be analyzed and even proven secure. Furthermore, we need to facilitate the comparison and classification between various systems. Otherwise, it is impossible to compare them with each other. And this is quite essential. Let me explain this with a small example. In most systems, there is an obvious performance versus security trade-off. This means that you can make the system more performant and usable by sacrificing its security. So when you have two competing systems, it is easy for one to surpass the other in terms of performance by sacrificing security. So if the systems get locked in a race like that, with one leaping ahead of the other continuously, decreasing security again and again in every step of this process, it becomes a race to destruction. In the end, an attack is bound to happen. So this is something that by all means needs to be avoided, and that is why we need to have well-defined frameworks for defining and arguing security in the blockchain space, and develop standards that establish what are the fundamental security requirements that every system should adhere to. With this introduction, let me now turn to our research highlights and also the work that you will expect to see in the coming years. I'll start first with the Cardano contract layer, which is the centerpiece of this year's summit. The system offers a general-purpose platform for decentralized applications. This is centered around the Plutus language, based on research that we've been working on the last 5 years and culminated in outputs such as the extended UTXO model and its native tokens, results that were peer-reviewed and published last year. This general purpose layer gives rise to domain-specific languages, or DSLs. An example of such language is Marlow, a language for financial contracts that is covered in another presentation in this summit. Developing applications in Cardano takes place over the Plutus application framework, which is another development of research and engineering coming together. Now, let me cover some of the ongoing research work. First, we're currently doing a deep dive on pricing models for smart contract transaction processing. Some first highlights of this work you can see, for instance, in the bubble fees and stable fees panel that is also in the program of the summit. There is also very exciting work that is coming up in the direction by a research team, that includes dynamic pricing models, which adjust automatically the fees in Cardano so they always remain predictable and fair. Another interesting domain that we're looking into right now is blockchain storage. Storage is a precious resource in a global transaction ledger, but it's also quite essential if we want to have fully functional and general purpose smart contracts. So we're working on the area of distributed databases and storage protocols to enhance the smart contracts capability with as much storage as they require. Another line of work aims to build formal verification tools for smart contracts. So with such tools, it's possible to build decentralized applications on top of the Cardano blockchains that will be formally verified. While another line that you should expect to see a lot of development is new DSLs for various domains that will extend the developer community of the system. Let's go a bit deeper now and further down in the protocol stack and look at the settlement layer. This is where the Ouroboros protocol lives. Undoubtedly, this was one of the major achievements of our research team over the last 5 years. We delivered groundbreaking advances in proof-of-stake protocol design with the Ouroboros protocol in 2016. And these were further improved with resilience against adaptive attacks and bootstrapping from Genesis in 2017 and 2018, respectively. These provided the solid foundation for the Cardano ecosystem. It's worth saying that one of the fundamental drivers behind the research that we did for Ouroboros was the energy efficiency of the underlying network. This would be contrasted to, for example, Bitcoin, that is a protocol which does not distinguish energy sources, and it will hungrily consume vast amounts of energy, currently on par with a medium-sized country in annualized consumption. In contrast, the Ouroboros network consumes only a modicum amount of energy per node. And while Ouroboros can be scaled via Hydra, our layer 2 protocol extension, we have continued to consider ways we can optimize the throughput and latency of the main chain protocol. Further, we're also interested in increasing further its security characteristics. Our ultimate goal in this direction is the development of Ouroboros Omega. We cover this work in another presentation in the summit that I invite you to attend. This protocol design will also lead us to the 4th generation blockchain systems that go beyond stake or work. Multiple resources of various forms, including reputation and merit, can be weighed in and acted upon in such a system. Let us now move to tokenomics. With the introduction of our research in reward-sharing schemes, in 2018, we gave the first instance of a game theoretic mechanism for incentivizing collaborative projects that was analyzed for equilibria and dynamic converges to such equilibria. This was implemented in the Cardano incentivized testnet in 2019 with very positive results, and then rolled into the mainnet last year. We continued the formal modeling work studying the incentives of blockchain systems during this time, as well as engaged in the development of other systems and concepts such as stablecoins, for instance, with the development of JED that was released just this year. What we're aiming for in the next years is to develop these capabilities to a broad set of features that are available to the whole ecosystem. This means that it will be possible for groups of people to engage in user-defined collaborative projects that have sound economics. Other important targets is the development of stable fees and stable coins and integrating them into the Cardano mainnet. This is also covered in another panel in the summit. Let's now move to blockchain governance. This is one of the most important pieces of work that is upcoming in Cardano in the form of Voltaire. We have already done groundbreaking work in the form of the treasury system that was published in 2019. That system facilitated the concept of privacy-preserving delegation of voting. Now, with this feature, the system can allow an agile form of decision-making, where users can delegate their voting rights or vote directly without disclosing which path or option they choose. At the same time, the first step of decentralized governance took place in the form of Project Catalyst, which launched in 2020. So there is a number of features and properties that the research team is currently working on. Actually, documenting the relevant properties for proper governance is an important task in its own right, and one that we're currently investing significant time. So I'll take a few moments to go over some of the concepts that are relevant for blockchain governance. And we have been studying and analyzing, systematizing their capabilities and their requirements. The properties include privacy, which refers to the ability of people to protect their vote from becoming disclosed, and the related property of coercion resistance, which means that users should be free of external influences in the way they participate in a governance mechanism. End-to-end verifiability is the ability to verify that the system has correctly recorded the user's intent. Accountability is the system having the capability of making the users bear some responsibility for the actions they take collectively. Thus, it should be hard for someone to influence the system in a bad direction and then not suffer some of the consequences in a fair and proportional manner. Sustainable are systems that are capable of making the right decision. This also means that the system is capable of identifying subpar performance in decision-making and reacting accordingly to that. For instance, adjusting reputation of responsible actors. Pareto efficiency asks for a suitable alignment between the final decision of the governance process and what each individual wants. And this is a necessary property for the results of the decision-making process to be acceptable by everyone. Liveness suggests that the system is responsive in a timely manner, and that's an essential property in many cases, especially if we have to patch vulnerabilities and issues that arise in terms of the security of the system. And finally, suffrage refers to the inclusivity of the system. We have to make sure that the relevant stakeholders are always part of decision-making. So you see, there is a wider array of properties that are needed in governance systems, and we are formally investigating all of them from a first principles perspective. And furthermore, we consider ways that we can construct governance protocols that they satisfy them by design. Let's enter now layer 2. The Hydra head protocols will form an important part of the Basho era of Cardano. A milestone here is the development of the Hydra head protocol that we published in 2019. This work introduced the concept of isomorphic operation between layers, which means that the applications can seamlessly port it from the main chain layer to layer 2. The full suite of protocols for Hydra will facilitate optimal performance close to the physical limits of the internet, and trustless operation as the underlying main chain can always play the role of the arbiter in any dispute between the participants. Now, what you should expect upcoming in our research in this area is the tail class of protocols, which will enable very fast processing of smart contracts, even for parties that are intermittently online, as well as the inter-head and tail communication protocol, which will enable the joining of multiple head and tail instances to a versatile and extensive layer 2 network. Moving on to the sidechain ecosystem now. This enables Cardano to listen and react to events in other systems, as well as become extensible with various non-native capabilities. A milestone in our research work was the development of the concept of proof-of-stake sidechains that we published in 2019. This work, among others, showed how sidechains can be used to extend the main chain capabilities with various features. These, for example, could include compatibility with other smart contract languages or experimental features. At the same time, we developed the concept of non-interactive proof of work, which paves the way for completely trustless integration with proof of work systems such as Bitcoin and Litecoin. In the same research, we are working towards secure oracles, which will enhance the capabilities of smart contracts with external data feeds. And we're also developing general purpose cryptographic toolset for seamless flow of value of information between different blockchains, be it proof of stake, proof of work, or otherwise, without single points of centralization. Final point, but quite important, is our investment of significant efforts to the post-quantum security of the whole protocol stack of Cardano and blockchain protocols in general. We started this work, first principles, by studying blockchain security in general in the post-quantum setting for proof-of-work systems. In the future, we will be developing ourselves as well as collaborating with other blockchain system development teams and analyzing post-quantum algorithms and protocols for the Ouroboros protocol and other critical components that are related to the Cardano ecosystem. Note that this will not require the enhancement of the system with any quantum capability. Instead, the system will remain classical in the computer sense. However, it will use suitable algorithms whose security remains unbreakable even against all-powerful quantum adversaries. Now, this gave you an overview of all the questions that our research team handles at the moment, as well as the direction we're heading. In the next few slides, I'll give you a bird's eye view of how we work at Input-Output Research, and you'll get an understanding of how our day-to-day operations look like. First, by numbers, there are some 50 or so researchers working at various levels, either part-time or full-time with Input-Output. There are people either embedded in universities, PhD students, or full-time in-house researchers at Input-Output. We have 4 senior research fellows that have worldwide recognition in the areas of algorithms, game theory, regulatory technology for finance, and programming languages. The core team numbers 7 full-time in-house researchers and 3 research engineers who are also forming the connective tissue between the research organization and the engineering team. Over the years, we published some 92 papers, co-authoring them with researchers from both industry and academia, while we have currently some 18 papers under submission for peer review. The research operations of Input-Output span the globe, and there are some 13 countries over which we have research members. Now, collaboration is at the heart of basic research, and this basis Input-Output is very proud to have established research protocols with a wide network of top academic institutions around the world. In terms of research dissemination, this happens under the auspices of established international organizations that promote computer science research in a number of areas. These include the International Association for Cryptologic Research, the Association for Computing Machinery, the International Financial Cryptography Association, the IEEE, and the Internet Society. We're now at a great point in time in the development of blockchain technology. Years of hard work has borne fruit, but we're not done yet. In many ways, it is now that things get interesting. So what lies in the road ahead? In the next 3 to 5 years, we hope to contribute to solving all the problems that are necessary for blockchain technology to become the global foundation of all information technology infrastructure. And importantly, we hope to be able to do that in the context of Cardano with the support of Cardano community, who are the ultimate custodians of the ecosystem. Input-Output is committed to basic research. In order to meet our immediate research goals, we are expanding our team to build strength in a number of critical areas. These include game theory, social choice theory, human-computer interaction, economics, political science, management science, and financial regulation and policy. What you can see is how multifaceted and interdisciplinary is our agenda. These roles are in conjunction to areas of core strength of the research organization of Input-Output, such as cryptography, programming languages, and cybersecurity. If you do research in the above areas, or you just want to follow what the team is doing, keep an eye to ihk.io. This wraps up the Input-Output research overview. Thank you for joining this session.
All right, guys. So much for that one. Let's see what we got going on next. Got about a 5-minute break before we got a keynote, an update from the Cardano Foundation. So this should be coming up next, you guys. They also have going on the Alonzo and Beyond smart contracts in Cardano. They've got growing the Cardano ecosystem, the C Fund, mobilizing communities to create, build, and educate. But I'm mainly just going to be streaming all the way until Charles is done at 7:25 p.m. here. So about another hour or so I'll be on and then call it a day. Let's check out anyone around here talking. It's a little bare unless it's all. Oops. What's up, guys? Here's what the whole Cardano world, virtual world they have going on here. Kind of interesting. It's a big turtle, and these are the different stages that they have. Beam yourself up there. But it's a big turtle. And like I've mentioned before, there's different items that you can collect. I've just been kind of maybe I'll get it right now. I don't know. Gentle Turtle. Anyone know how to get this one if you guys are playing along? All right, let's go back to the main stage. Yeah, day 2. What's going on day 2? Starting at 11 a.m. AI robots. Charles and Ben talk past, present, future. Bridging the gap. Change your avatar. I like this one. All right, guys, here we go. Woo, woo.
So, hi, Fred. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I think we're going to jump straight in. I think we're really at the precipice of something exciting here with Cardano, and the breadth of talks happening at the summit is a real indication of that. And I think the first thing we really need to talk about are the NFTs. And can you tell me what's happening in this space with the Cardano Foundation?
Sure, I will be super happy to do so. So it's been really exciting to see the amount of NFTs who's basically been minted on our blockchain, and also the use of metadata around that. And we see also a lot of things emerging around using NFTs as access control to smart contracts and to dApps and so forth. So I think it's really something we want to support. And for us, what's really important is open source tools. So what we're going to do is we are creating a secure enterprise-grade open source tool for enterprises, which will further reduce the barriers for entry for enterprises to build solutions on Cardano. So what does that really mean? Well, it means that we've seen a lot of individuals minting NFTs and a lot of projects coming, which is great, from different artists and so forth. But we would like to ensure that some kind of a standard emerges. And what we've seen is a lot of people has been following the CIP25 standard for NFTs, which was made and adopted by the community. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, and we already started, an API first web service where different NFT creators can issue their NFTs. So basically it's an NFT API tool who provides some core functionality, supports the CIP25 for different businesses, and it makes it a lot easier for marketplaces or websites to basically build on top of that. And it also creates much more interoperability. So thinking about it is an open tool library, which basically will promote a certain standard. And that standard will also make it a lot easier for all the explorers out there and everybody who's grinding the data to kind of find these NFTs and to ensure that there's interoperability between that, and you can actually also export that out to some of the larger platforms out there.
And can you tell me kind of what are the key differences between this standard and other standards maybe?
Well, there is not that many standards on Cardano at the moment. And we see that is emerging as more and more enterprise adoption and more normal adoption is happening. And what we would like to support is that these some of these standards come into play. What we've seen on other blockchains is that when a standard emerges, it gets a lot easier for businesses and developers to basically build on top of that. And it also makes it easier to evaluate and audit it, and makes it easier to switch the tokens between different platforms. So it's really a push towards getting some kind of standards which is already defined by the community, and we're just supporting that with some tools in the back end for that. So it will bring more adoption, and it will bring hopefully more enterprises, and it will bring a bigger eye from some of the large platforms out there, marketplaces who's been building on other blockchains, to basically encourage them to integrate or come to Cardano as well.
Because this really fits in with our kind of mission, our goals that you set out during the summer around really building an institutional platform that's attractive for institutional kind of adoptees. And kind of what would you say about that?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So what we really need is to ensure that the way you interact with the platform becomes as easy and as transparent and as solid as possible. And then we have these three words I keep talking about is the resilience, the reliability of the platform, right? And how that really plays together, because what large enterprises or larger businesses, because we see these large businesses coming, what they want is to ensure that how they interact with the platform is enterprise grade, and that is the uptime is there, and they can trust the data from the integration layers and the APIs in the middle layers. So it's also about building from our side a kind of a reference API, which the community then also can then at a later stage either take the source code from or even take over.
And I think this kind of brings us nicely on to kind of a part on kind of the delegation. And so it goes back in April, I think the foundation moved from a 3-epoch delegation cycle to a quarterly delegation cycle. And I think at the start of October, we're going to start delegating again. So, which is really exciting. Can you tell me a bit what we're going to focus on?
Yeah, that's correct. So we wanted to move to a 3 months or quarterly delegation because it gave us some more speed in terms of our execution. It sounds a bit funny that we say we get more speed, but it allows us to ensure that the processes was in place on the token level. The other part was we felt that we were delegating towards mainly decentralization to small stake pools, and we are now looking into supporting some of these great news we just announced here at the summit around circular economy and sustainability. So we're really looking into changing that a part of our delegation methodology to also support some of these impact pools and some of these initiatives which we just announced. So I think that's super exciting as well. And we will try and do everything we can from the foundation side to keep supporting stake pools who is thinking a little bit different and who is fighting the fight every day to ensure that the security of the network, but also to try and change the world. And I think those initiatives goes very well hand in hand.
Yeah, and can you kind of maybe tell us a little bit about kind of how you're supporting kind of these different stake pools specifically?
Sure. Well, one thing is, of course, the delegation, right? That we delegate on a quarterly basis. Another thing is that we are looking at building an advisory board around that. And the third part, which is probably the larger announcement, is that we are doing a 3-year grant with the University of Zurich, with the Blockchain Observatory, where the mandate basically is that they are going to implement the Cardano blockchain into their tool sets. And what that basically is going to do is that it's going to create a situation where we can get a review of the consensus protocol and the incentives to support a continued decentralization and an active governance of Cardano. So really what it does is it's giving us some postdocs for a 3-year period to do research, really data-driven research on the blockchain on a transaction level, also looking at the staking dynamics and the Cardano protocol parameters, including the stake pool operator parameters, to ensure that we as the foundation has sufficient knowledge and insights to support the healthy growth of stake pools. And we had a lot of discussion with different stake pools, and there's a lot of opinions about small stake pools versus big stake pools, and how Ouroboros and later Ouroboros Omega actually is going to do that. But our aim is really to ensure this further decentralization, but we need the data, and we need it from a non-biased source, which is also monitoring other blockchains to really see how these incentives and how these things actually play along over time. So it's really about giving the University of Zurich the time and the ability to also look at the Cardano blockchain and compare that to other world-leading blockchains, and to give us early data points, which will allow us to work with the community and the stake pool operators to optimize a fair system on the blockchain.
Yeah, and I think the partnership with the University of Zurich is incredibly interesting, because it really lays down the groundwork for what we're about is just education and kind of research. And I think I want to know a little bit more about why maybe specifically you partnered with the University of Zurich.
I think in reality we had been having a working relationship with the University of Zurich for a long time. We also have with a couple of other universities. And we felt that the value proposition with the Blockchain Observatory, where they're already looking at the Bitcoin chain and Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash and other change, it basically felt like they had the knowledge and they had the tool sets which will allow us to actually do that at this time. The other part is that the foundation is based in Switzerland, which allows us to be quite close. And this is the first long-term collaboration and grant we give to a university out of the Cardano Foundation. So it also allows us to be a bit more closer on the ball and on the working packages. And I think specifically the working packages are really important for us, that we get that right. Because it's not like core academic research on how to do a better blockchain. It's really about monitoring the protocol parameters and the incentives and what's actually happening on the blockchain, and comparing that with other blockchains to ensure this healthy ecosystem keeps thriving. And what we also want to look at is, for instance, the rights and the participation which is happening. So it's not just about the transaction, but also what kind of participation, and later when voting comes online on the main net, right? We want to also get our heads and grasp around that we can really get the right kind of dynamics in place, and we are forewarned. So if you look at what we're doing right now with the API backend and building that API backend, I think if we would have had sufficient data in an earlier stage, we could have kicked that off maybe 2-3 months earlier, and we would have been able to support a lot more of the NFT creation on the chain by actually kicking that API backend off earlier. So I think it's really about also front running some of those initiatives we see in the data on the blockchain.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really interesting. It's the fact that we're going to be seeing trends, not spotlight, not replacing spotlight on kind of a 1 year partnership. That's actually just going to be over 3 years. And can you tell me a little bit more about the economic functioning? Because I think that's something that might interest our community a bit.
The economic function in terms of the grant, or in terms of the how they're going to measure it?
Yeah, and the work package, I think, would be really interesting to talk about from the University of Zurich.
Yeah, so we will do a blog post around that at a later stage. We're just right now evaluating the last bits and pieces of the work package, and we're waiting here for the summit to kind of announce this. But in essence, we're kind of in agreement with the University of Zurich, right? And the work package is overarchingly defined, but I think it would be better to share that in a blog post at a later time.
We'll make sure for everyone to watch this space, because there's some really exciting things coming up. So make sure to check out our blog post for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other part about University of Zurich is that they have something called the Blockchain Summer School, right? And the Blockchain Summer School is something we participated in for 2 years in a row now, which is basically an open summer school. You have to pay for it, unfortunately, where people can come and learn about not just different blockchains and different protocols, but they also get very deep into the gist of it. And this year we actually went that far that the students had the ability to basically to code an oracle on the Cardano blockchain using Wolfram Alpha, and using different aspects of the Cardano blockchain and some of the components of Malawi. And I think that was just truly magical that students within a short amount of time actually have that ability to do an oracle there. So it's also about education and ensuring that more universities put the spotlight on blockchain and what these decentralized applications can do, but also the delta towards the centralized, let's say, DLT space, and where is it that you can actually find added value in the decentralization compared to the centralization.
I think, as I said earlier, is the groundwork for strong educations and foundation. Yeah, and I think we're kind of coming up on time soon, so I suppose I want to talk about kind of our recent announcements on our board and kind of look at the recent updates we've had. And I think we have some excellent kind of skill sets and a really great constellation of skills and talents and understanding on the board. Is there anything kind of you'd like to kind of give an update to us on that?
Yeah, I mean, as we have announced, the previous board or council has stepped down. We called it a council before. Now the name is a board. When we thank them very much for all the hard work and all the things they've really put into motion. As you know, we have, or as we communicated before, we have a 2-year running cycle on the board. So I guess it's a bit of a natural transition we're doing now. But I think what we've been really focusing on with the new people joining is that America is a very important market for us, and we see a lot of things happening in the Americas right now in terms of regulation. So it was very important for us to get a regulatory expert on the board, which can guide the foundation in terms of how do we support stake pool operators, how do we support creators of code, how do we support tokens and so forth in the Americas. So having Mary Beth Buchanan, which is used to be the general counsel for Kraken and Bitstamp and has been a United States attorney for the Department of Justice for many years on the board. I think this is extremely valuable and will give us the right guidance. On the Swiss side, we also focused on ensuring that we had a capital markets lawyer. As many of you know, being in blockchain can sometimes be a bit tricky because on one hand, we are redefining finance and how finance is going to look in the future, but we are also in certain ways, for certain banks and capital markets players, we are threatening them a little bit. And there's all these new rules about AML and KYC and where does that fit in and so on. So I'm really having Gillian McNabb and her deep fintech and capital markets knowledge and the foundation knowledge she has about foundation law is going to help us. So that basically means now, 2 legal experts or regulatory legal experts on the board, one basically representing Europe and Switzerland, and one representing the US. I think this was, a very good timing for us in terms of the maturity of the protocol, but also the maturity of the foundation and the work we're going to do according to the strategy presentation as we published a couple of months ago. And then the other one is Andreas Eschbach. Andreas Eschbach has more than 20 years experience from a big four, and he's been working very much around smart contract review, very much around how do you audit a blockchain, how do you audit a token, how do you actually change audit methodology, how do you prove provenance, how do you bridge that in? So when a Fortune 500 company that they want to use the Cardano blockchain to optimize their business processes, and by that they're buying some ADA to get access to that, and they're launching a whole set of smart contracts, or maybe even moving some of their core ledgers away from SAP Financial or Oracle Financial Solutions, right, and into the Cardano protocol. It's very important for us that not only do we have very solid code and standards in place, but we also have the ability of proving that to the necessary auditors and the necessary supervisory authorities who are supervising these very large enterprises. The other part, which is experience we want to kind of tap into, is the certification of implementation providers. We're already working now together with IOG and Emurgo with several IT companies who's getting very deep into Plutos and into the core of Haskell. But we would like to get to a place that there is a some kind of certification program where we can send companies to when they want to do large projects. And what would obviously be great is to key that into the existing community. So the existing community members who's been supporting and really building on Cardano for a long time, that they have this ability also to bridge into these certified solution providers or implementation providers over time. So it's a hope that his knowledge can bring that in. Then we are at the time of recording, I'm not really allowed to say it, but we're also bringing a fourth person in, and I hope we can basically announce that just around the summit, but we're recording a bit before that. And he has a lot of experience. He's based out of Japan, and he has a lot of experience from the 80s and 90s about the Linux and all the IBM and Googles of the world and how the whole open source movement was running. And the reason we are bringing him on board is basically based on a governance perspective, because we're going into the Voltaire era. And I think where the foundation really is going to take its stand is also around how Voltaire is going to define the future of the Cardano blockchain, but also a lot about what does open source really mean, and how do we actually encourage not just a lot of commits from let's say a tightly knit circle of Haskell developers, but how do we actually spread that out so we get much more commits from a much larger community. And he has a lot of experience in actually doing that. So I think that's a new skill set, and I think it's matching extremely well with where the protocol and where the foundation for maturity level is today. So we are super grateful for all the hard work the old board has done, and I said that this 2-year period it seems to be a very natural change. But also now with the Alonso hard fork and smart contracts, we are really just trying to ensure that we have a fully independent board with the right skill sets to guide the foundation, and to ensure that we can grow and make even more impact and really start augmenting the enterprise adoption and de-risking the use of the protocol for enterprises, regulators, and capital markets players.
Yeah, so that sounds really, really exciting. We've got an incredible kind of few months ahead of us. So thanks, Fred. It's been really great chatting with you today. And I suppose, do you have any final remarks for our community on the foundation updates, or before we head?
You're welcome, and enjoy the rest of the summit. We're really, really proud about all these things happening, and thank you for supporting the Cardano community and the Cardano protocol. I think we really have a chance now to change the world with smart contracts, and we can move beyond, let's say, the more token standards, and really move into to identity and enterprise optimization and business optimization and all those things, which will allow people to really voice their opinion and create an impact out there in the world.
Great. Thanks, Fred.
Do you want the normal answer, or you want the philosophical one? I reached that point in my career where I wasn't learning anything new. It was basically just wash, rinse, repeat. So being able to enter a new emerging industry is just so interesting and powerful. It's very difficult to explain to people that don't know the industry. Now, Luckily, that's changed dramatically over the last year. The industry's practically gone mainstream. It's a marriage of technology, incentives, economics. It's actually a new paradigm. Every other chain in the industry practically is more of an experiment. It's almost as if they've launched their beta. Cardano has taken its time. It's not do things quickly and break things. It's take your time and do it right. It's the classic tortoise and hare. The possibilities that our competitors, or colleagues, let's call them better, have shown will now be available in a more robust and rigorous system, and therefore it's naturally that demand is going to show up on the Cardano platform. So up until now, we've been able to get traction on our layer 2 solutions, but right now we have the programmatics where you can program the logic of what you're doing into the base layer, and this basically opens up the world, essentially. There's many, many more use cases that can come onto the system right now because of the smart contract capability. Legacy systems are largely centralized systems. So they've got the fundamental failures are in the way that they're designed. It's a top-down system, and they're not sufficient bottom-up systems anymore to combat that. If you look back at history, there was an artisanal class, right? There were people that can have small businesses and create value and actually get that value back. That was historically the case. The Industrial Revolution completely put that on top of its head, where big central corporation industrial complexes were the ones that were calling the shots, and the little guy was just put into a box. What the blockchain allows is to bring that artisanal kind of small business, individual enterprise back into the fold, because you have a new system that allows that. So a good example could be an artist in Pakistan in the past would have to work through a system to get there and probably wouldn't get noticed. Now you could just put your art online, you can put an NFT out there and get paid for that art. That's completely new. When you're working with high assurance industries like the healthcare industry, like the financial services industry, automotive and so forth, they don't have any tolerance for errors and mistakes. So you need that type of rigor, you need that high assurance, that determinism, if you're going to get those types of systems onto the blockchain. If we look at our pipeline, I have between 400 and 1,000 opportunities across the planet. So whereas demand generation in traditional space is hard to do, here it comes like almost part of the package. In terms of partnerships and people we'd like to collaborate with us, it really goes across the spectrum. So there's individuals starting new businesses, creating new solutions, up to small and medium businesses that are creating business value through this platform, all the way up to large governments and enterprise. By and large, partnerships are quite transactional. It's about money in, money out. When you work for a company like Input Output, you're not only working for a company, you're already plugged into an ecosystem. So there's a large community. Most companies try to do innovation in-house. Things like Catalyst allow you to crowdsource innovation, which multiplies the power of innovation. Of course, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer, so my primary role is to bring value to Input Output using the Cardano platform. But the projects that really get me out of bed are the impact programs, because we're helping people that are being left out of the system. So stateless people, people in poor countries that don't have access to services, it may or may not have a commercial aspect to it, but is providing good to the world. A lot of the things we do may seem invisible or may seem small, but over time, we find that some of these small things will grow to be very, very big things. So things like interoperability between chains, things like standardizations, things like educating the politicians about our industry. Right now feels like small things. It's just some time in your day where you do this, but over time that accumulates, and I think that'll have an outsized impact, not only for us, but for the industry at large. Seeing it around the corners in this industry is exceedingly difficult because it changes so quickly. So I think some of the big drivers like economic identity and innovation platforms and governance, those are timeless kind of topics. But understanding what the next big trend is going to be in the market is exceedingly difficult to do. So it's as much about being agile and flexible than being far-seeing. So the far-seeing stuff are those big topics, but you also have to be agile and keep up with the incredible change that this market is bringing. Some of the changes we can't foresee, so you have to just keep your pulse on what's going on to be able to capture those. So Cardano 2025 for me is really a story of utility, adoption, and reinvention. So we're targeting, and we have line of sight to get to 1 billion users within that time frame. There'll be more enterprise adoption, there'll be more governments coming on board, more people coming on board. But what I'm most excited about is the unknown unknown. So what is going to come out of this that we could not have foreseen, and how do we pivot to capture those next waves of value? So the reinvention part of it, I think, is going to be a great part of the Cardano 2025. So we do have a long way to go, but it is like being in the first days of the internet. These are things that are changing the world. In fact, the blockchain space, it's creating a new paradigm that we haven't seen since the Middle Ages. It's a new way of doing business. It's a new way of, it's a reinvention of money. It's like going through the looking glass. Now I look at traditional institutions and I see them differently, because I see how the threads of power are working and how our industry looking to disrupt that, and how many times it's adversarial where it doesn't have to be. And it's just, yeah, it's like Alice in Wonderland, right? It's like getting into this new world of opportunity that wasn't possible before. I've been in the industry now for 2 years. I've never learned so much. I've never worked so hard and been so satisfied with the work that I've done.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. All right, ladies, make sure that you guys can hear me. So we're coming into the last thing of the evening, last talk, and it will be in about, let's see, 7:05 it looks like. So we got a little break here between Charles and the special music guest talking about NFTs. Actually, it looks like we got something going on here. Yeah, let's jump. Woo-hoo. I don't hear any music. Unless this is just a static video. Yeah, this is. All right, cool. What are you guys' thoughts? You guys have any thoughts? We're gonna just walk around here. Anyone talking? Go jump over to adoption real quick. Let's see what's going on over here.
Professionals or crowd followers. And what you see is, for a long time, the professionals said, it's not coming, it's not, it will never work. And just the price appreciation of some of the cryptos has just been a kind of a go-to action call. So what I see is that at top level, there are some very senior people who are now convinced that this is part of the future. And it's this which we're feeling, and this is why some of the valuations are as high as they are, because they see the potential, but also realize how much work is necessary.
Stein? Okay, now happened to me as well. Thanks. What we see in the projects that we're having with large institutional financial intermediaries, basically that since a couple of months, they are shying away from Ethereum or looking for alternatives due to the fact that transaction fees on Ethereum are just so high that they see that the projects won't scale, which is extremely important. I might elaborate on later. Secondly, what came up when talking to institutions is basically from a reputational standpoint, the eco footprint of the whole thing, right? So basically proof of work, proof of stake, and really management challenging me on whether this is a reputational risk.
Let's see how the market's doing right now. Looks like we're red right now, guys. Let's refresh it. Cody's been crushing it lately, obviously. IOTEX. Bitcoin's down 0.48%. 42.8 thousand Bitcoin. About 2.9 thousand Ethereum. And we got Cardano at about $2.32. Let's see throughout the day. Peaked out at about 246 at 11:35 a.m. That's shortly after Charles opened up the summit. So buy the rumor, sell the news, and then we just dipped the whole day. And we're making a slight uptrend right now. But thank you guys for joining. I've been streaming the Cardano Summit. This morning I did, and took a little break, and then I came back this afternoon, and we're streaming the tail end of it. So, we're just waiting on the final main talk of the day. And we're just going to wait, guys. What's up, guys? Just thank you guys for watching. We're at the last talk. We're just waiting on Charles Hoskinson here in about 2 minutes for the last talk of the day. Special music guest, and I guess they're talking about NFTs or something, so it should be a pretty good last 20-25 minutes to end the first day of the Cardano Summit. So I'll probably live stream tomorrow again if you guys are interested. I'm going to try to look at what probably the one, some of the talks that are interesting to the most people. And I'll stream that. Man, I can't talk today. Yeah, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up, subscribe. I got a lot of subscribers earlier today. It was a huge surprise. There was like 700 people. I think I was the only person that was streaming the Cardano Summit where it wasn't lagging, because their official site was like, I guess, lagging and whatnot. So mine was like HD and not non-lagging. I had like 700 people commenting or in the stream, but there was so many spammers and stuff. It was crazy. But yeah, pretty good, interesting day. They got a partnership with Dish and mobile. Someone's texting me. Another partnership. Oh, here we go. Chainlink.
You.
So good to meet you, Billy. I hear you with us. I hear you got some passions for Africa.
Indeed. I had just learned just today that you and I could probably spend hours going through the fascination that the whole continent offers, both the highest of highs and lowest of lows and all points in between. And what really caught my attention was the dedication and foresight that you have maintained in looking deep into beyond just the fascination of Africa as a continent.
You know, it's a fascinating place, and you're absolutely right to say it's unique. I mean, there's so many different countries in different regions and zones. We're going on an Africa tour next month, and it's kind of like a rock star tour. 3 weeks, we're going to South Africa, Zanzibar, Malawi, Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Egypt in a 3-week time period.
Wow.
5 heads of state. So I giving you guys a run for your money. I mean, it's tough. But on the other hand, you get to meet some amazing people. We're meeting a lot of ministers of innovation. We're meeting a lot of ministers of education and heads of state. And what's really on a cell phone? Why can't we get good records here? Why can't you be able to go to a website and look who owns the property, or get a currency system that it doesn't inflate 15-20% per year? They have great people, bright people, brilliant people, but the systems are not where they need to be. And they have the political will and mandate to upgrade those. So over the next 5-10 years, there's going to be a Pan-African effort to completely redo the information technology base of the entire continent. The voting systems, the property system, money system, and it literally transforms people's lives at the end of the day.
Yes, and as you point out, the exuberance, the youthful exuberance, is leading the charge. There's no shortage of interest. There's no shortage of curiosity. I think that the drawbacks are up at a hardware level.
I mean, people want to be treated with respect and dignity, and they want to be treated fairly. And what got me most excited about our entire industry and how we think, how we approach problems is this basic idea that you can create a system where everybody's treated equally. Doesn't matter if they're rich, doesn't matter if they're poor, doesn't matter who they're born to, all these things. And it's all that everybody has open access, and it's all open source. Every product we've built, no patents, no intellectual property, it's all open source. It's there for everybody. And if it can work in Ethiopia, like the Mr. Education deal we have, or some of the other deals that are coming online, it's going to work for the homeless in California. It's going to work for the poor towns in West Virginia and other places that are really getting hit hard, and also creates a new economy. You know, we got NFTs now, we got ICOs, we got all these crazy things that they didn't exist, you know, even 2 years ago. But holy moly, it's really changed the landscape and the playing field. And it's kind of like when color came to television, or, you know, VR came, people said, wow, this is incredible. And sometimes it was a little difficult to know exactly how that was going to work out. But over time, the creative medium gave artists and gave entrepreneurs, you know, so many more dimensions to work with and express what they want to say, how they want to say it, but also be able to monetize that. You know, music industry needs a renaissance. Hollywood needs a renaissance. There's a lot of problems right now in these things. And what's exciting is the same kinds of things that allow you to vote securely, have secure money, have property, can also allow these new business models to run on the same rails and be openly accessible to not just American artists, but also African artists or South American artists, Southeast Asia artists. Like I remember going to Mongolia, there was a band I met there. What was it? The Who? Josh, you remember their name? That Mongolian rock band, the throat singers?
The Who.
Yeah, the Who. Yeah, God, holy moly, they're so talented, that band, and they just got discovered by accident. So now they're starting to become rock stars, but they're just like got this old and new blend where they're taking traditional Mongolian throat singing, which is just strange out itself. It's like two dudes singing, it's the same person, and then they add in, yeah,
the Tuvans, yeah.
Yeah, and then they add in hard rock, and you're just like, wow, what am I listening to? This is crazy. And the fact that they could compete on a global market and they don't have to live in Hollywood or Nashville or some other place and be able to actually have a direct relationship with their customers is what it's all about. And you know, hopefully we can build that infrastructure and make that as global as possible.
Yeah, it's a rather ambitious thought process, but you did touch upon some valued terminology, and I think that when you strike the interest of being able to monetize certain things, there is an underlying current of optimism that's being overlooked, and it's glaring. You speak of homeless problems across this country, and by and large, the general response is hands in the air. It's like I can't figure this out, but they're missing a big part of the way that solutions can be brought to the forefront, and it's with this optimism that you're carrying. That's quite exciting.
Yeah, and it makes everybody, you know, just think, how can we solve a problem instead of being so damn cynical. I'm getting tired of cynicism, Billy. You know, everybody, oh, we can't solve it. Our best days are behind us. Nothing will ever get done. There's fraud here. There's there. This person's a liar. I love that we get to work on systems all day long where you don't really have to care about who you're doing business with because the system itself keeps everybody honest. You know, I got a great story I love telling. I went over the country of Georgia. Apparently, there's a country of Georgia. You know,
oh yeah,
go figure. So I went out of the country of Georgia, and I was in Tbilisi with the old finance minister of India, and he made some political enemies. So they gave him the job that nobody wanted. They're like, "Hey, go clean up the corrupt police force." It's like, "Oh, you might as well just shoot me in the head now." That's like the worst job in the entire world. They said, all right, I'll figure it out. So what he did is he secretly trained an entire parallel police force in America. Didn't tell anybody he was doing it. Then he just had them all come in, fired every police officer in the country the same day, and brought in these new guys. And he had two police forces. So there was the regular police and then a different group who would randomly pull over the police. And if they caught him with cash, they'd fire him on sight. And
wow.
So they went from one of the most corrupt to one of the least corrupt police forces in all of Europe, basically overnight. And I asked him, well, you know, how did you come up with all this? It's systems. Bad systems make corrupt cops. If you're an honest guy, you go into a bad system, a lot of corrupt cops, then if you don't take bribes, they're suspicious of you. They'll kill you. If you walk into a good system, then even if you're a bad actor, you're going to wash out or you're going to reform and you're going to grow up. So what's so cool about our industry is it's all about thinking in systems, whether it be the police systems or the voting systems or the music industry. And that means we get to work with everybody. We get to talk to everybody and we say, okay, where aren't you being treated fairly? where do you not have the relationships that you want to have? Where are you letting someone down, or there's an issue, or where do you feel like you've been screwed in the business relationship? And that can be the coffee farmer in Ethiopia, all the way up to a famous physician, to a world leader. It doesn't matter. They all have a grievance somewhere in the arrangements. Central bank issued digital currencies are the same thing. You'd think a central bank's a big, prestigious organization. 2/3 of central banks in the world are non-BIS members, and they get screwed by the big guys. And so they're basically told how they have to run the monies of their country and how their rails have to work and these things. And they say, well, we'd like to innovate, we'd like to grow, and they end up actually being told, well, if you go down that road, we're going to shut you out of the global economy. Imagine a nation state being told that. So their hands are kind of tied, and this new system comes in and gives people a chance, like El Salvador is doing or others are doing, to kind of innovate and reform and try new things, like maybe universal basic income, or maybe sovereign wealth funds that handle environmental concerns, or maybe you end up going from GDP to HDI and say that growth doesn't matter, it's how we treat everybody that matters. And if they want to go down that road, now we have new tools to enable people to go down that road and really get it done in one way or the other. And to be on ground floor of that is just, it's so much fun. I'm like a kid in a candy store, Billy. I'm loving life every day.
I can only imagine. It is about the system and systems in general. And, even from a musical standpoint, our trio, three guys, keeping it the system of three chords, getting into it is easy. And if we drift, we call it. We've got a kind of a interesting, a highly technical term. We call it going to the Bahamas. Going there is easy. It's how you come back and get back into the flow without losing your way. But as you point out, I really like the. It's quite an objective standpoint to boil it down into just that systems that they do have some interesting machinations within as you go from system to system, and it's that evaluation that certainly can cull the wheat from the chaff. If you see it's bad, where is the good? And I like the fact that it's open to discussion. Listening to complaints can be a bit challenging, downright draining in a lot of cases. Right. But the fact that if that openness is maintained, it really paints the picture of where the system might need repair.
Yeah. What's so cool is everything I build, almost everything I build, I don't own. It's kind of weird to be a CEO of a company where your product, you don't own the product and you kind of give it away for free. And somehow you can keep the lights on. I always wonder, am I going crazy or something like that? This is interesting. But you're right about it being open. It's like our products are as defined by the people who use them as they are by our engineers and things. And all the time, as somebody comes and wants to do something crazy, it'll change it. Like, for example, the Ministry of Education deal we did in Ethiopia, that's 5 million people that we brought in one deal, and almost all of them are under the age of 18 because it's K through 12 credentials. So there are some really unique challenges to that. In terms of connectivity, less than 20% have access to smartphones, less than 25% are online. So you're building a digital solution for people who are mostly not online. So you have to come up with different distribution models like hub and spoke, and then you have to think about, well, what type of technology do we need to build to allow these things to work without internet connectivity, and also work at a scale of where you can only spend maybe 5 cents a user or 10 cents a user. And scarcity is another big fun part of the puzzle is how do you make it work cheap but well? And that's something we don't do so well in America. We always spend too much and we get half of what we thought we paid for. And somehow we have to have this other mindset. We got to use pencils instead of pens in space. That's where we're at.
Those are, we have to back up just a bit. You mentioned some rather interesting figures within the scope of those limitations, which are fairly significant. Right. I think that in addition to openness, the interest behind that youthful exuberance, I keep using that one term, youthful exuberance, there is a powerful energy right there. There will be workarounds, but the ungainliness of some of the initial workaround attempts, they seem to find their solutions, which is, I call it door opening. And you get past the first door and the subsequent doors seem to open a little bit quicker. I liked it.
Yeah, and also you learn if you learn to listen. You know, we get so used to talking. It's important to sit down, just listen, actually ask people, what problems are we supposed to solve? What do we need to do? What's so cool about these systems is that you learn as much from the users of the systems as you do from your own people. These 5 million kids, we've already started getting a lot of amazing feedback from them, as we've got about 1 million of the 5 million into the system. And we have 40 people on the ground in Addis Ababa right now, just figuring this out. And most of them are actually from Ethiopia. In fact, the vast majority of our employees are Ethiopian in Ethiopia.
Wow.
You know, the passion is unbelievable. People show up Saturday, people show up Sunday. They work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Old, young, doesn't matter. You know, every part of government wants to be part of this. And you know, there's a civil war going on right now in Ethiopia, and we're still rolling out the program, and we're still figuring out how to make progress on a daily basis. So that's the other humbling component of it. And already we got a product pipeline that probably take 5 years to 6 years to saturate as a consequence of this one pilot that we've done and we've rolled out. The other thing is, you look, well, where does it go? Once you get the kids in and the credentials in, then the next step is the national ID system of Ethiopia. And this is something I'm super passionate about, because if you grow up in one of these geographies, you have a really hard time proving facts about yourself and a hard time doing business on an international basis. So let's say you have a PhD and you're brilliant artificial intelligence person. As an American employer, it's very difficult for me to actually know the level of credibility the candidate has. For that, you can start creating hierarchies of credentials. You can create much lower cost ways of credentialing people and getting skills for free or near free, instead of tens of thousands of dollars to learn something. It's a pretty remarkable thing, you know, all things considered. And what's so astounding to me is that this solution, once it's constructed, we have this old saying in the DRM world, the digital rights management, it's called the smart cow effect. You have a smart cow and it figures out how to open up the fence, all the cows get out. So you only need one cow to influence the whole herd. Well, it's the same thing with these solutions. Once you have one country that's running it, all the neighbors want it. Kenya wants it, Burundi wants it, all these other guys. So you wake up in 10 years, 20 years, you bring 500 million people, 600 million people into the economy, and you bring them on their own terms. They own their identity, they own their data, they own their credentials, they're portable so they can move between different systems. They're not vendor locked in. And it's up to them to decide what that means to them and what type of business they want to conduct. And if they're good people, bad people, it's completely on their shoulders. And that's a pretty amazing thing, you know, when you actually see that scale.
Yes, that level of focus, as you go into some of these fascinating descriptions, I would think that it's fair to say that we could count on the fact that if the threads can be established, then tethering the threads together, granted it's an issue of time, but once those threads are tethered, the fields of greater charm open up. It's spontaneous. You don't have to convince somebody to go where the grass is greener. Once they see it, as you say, once the cows are out, they'll go.
Exactly. So what excites you most about where Africa is going in the next 10, 15 years? What are the kinds of things you've been following and thinking about?
I got into a bit of brief discussion through the Cardano meeting yesterday. And through the recent eruption and explosive interest behind NFTs, the brainchild that I was working with our friend Matt Sorum, Mike Fiorentino, and the spiritual level of opening that up. I kind of liked Matt's rather ground level relation. His analogy was the difference between the old days when you'd buy a record album and within a 12-inch square, you had plenty of real estate to look at some artwork, you had plenty of things to read, liner notes. It was a very tactile experience, which seemed to very quickly evaporate. When the genie was out of the bottle, no one really knew which direction it was going. We now know that a lot of that hands-on tactile experience has truly evaporated, but we do have the opportunity now to reconnect. And I think that it's a very important aspect of what can be offered to friends, fans, and followers, that through the new digital domain, NFTs in particular, do open that door to re-establish and refresh a tactile experience, a one-on-one, as you and I are enjoying right now.
Well, what's really cool about NFTs is they can encode 3D printing information inside of them. So not only can you actually create scarcity in a digital world, you can actually use that to create something in the physical world. And then you can actually touch it, see it. But it's so crazy. You're absolutely right. I never thought of it that way, where you used to have these vinyl and you have a lot of stuff to look at, and they have beautiful, cover art for a lot of things. I was a Boston fan, and I always loved their covers, and same for Pink Floyd. And now it's like we have this digital world where we have unlimited space and unlimited screen real estate. You can do everything, but yet we don't ever see it. You just click a button, and you hear it, or it plays. I didn't think of that.
I heard it described as we went from a 12-inch square down to a postage stamp, and
Right.
The reduction was dramatic. You mentioned being involved in depth at so many levels, and the notion of giving it away, it's juxtaposed between the school of thought that it's important to sit on your primary matter, and that is to suggest beware of that the gift or the bonus of having awakened to something that is of value. I don't necessarily want to give it away initially, but if you sit there kind of curmudgeonly with an attitude of I'm not going to be in a sharing position, it's at a standstill. Nothing moves forward.
Right. And you can't have any growth economically or spiritually if you don't give. You have to give more than you take. The world gets better,
Yeah. It's a challenging concept, but once you've felt it, once you've had the luxury of tiptoeing through the experience, it's a wide open space. Everybody can win.
Right. All the great things in my life have come as a direct consequence of giving stuff away. Actually, my time in the cryptocurrency space, that's how it got started. My very first venture was the Bitcoin Education Project. This was about 9 years ago. And I gave away a free class. And my dad said, well, what the hell are you doing? You're not going to make any money if you give it away for free. I said, oh, don't worry about it. All just going to work out. And so I ended up getting 70,000 students, and I got over 5,000 emails with that course. It was called, because I'm a big Peter Sellers fan, it was called Bitcoin or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Crypto, after Dr. Strangelove. And anyway, one of my students was a VC guy in China, and he gave me the money I needed to start my first business in the industry. But I've noticed every time we've ever given anything away, it's always come back to us a factor of 5 or 10. And I hope that's a lesson that becomes inculcated throughout the industry, that you should develop the servant mindset of what can we do for others and how can we help others. Spiritually is really good for you, but also it turns out it's always created successful businesses in this respect.
I mentioned having the opportunity to conduct today's exchange, just you and I together, and as it turns up now, was that initial Bitcoin the walkthroughing of that did that take place in Berkeley?
No, I did. I record all the lectures here in Colorado, and I put it up for free on a website called Udemy, which is still around, and I think they've been syndicated on YouTube and a couple other platforms. But I gave away the intellectual property, so I released it all as a Creative Commons licensed course, and they got replayed probably millions of times throughout
Yes,
the years.
your good work has spread far and wide. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was just one thing. And what's really amazing is that almost all the really good Bitcoin education stuff is free, like Gensler's lectures at MIT or the Princeton course and so forth. And that's really cool that not only does the space exist, if you want to learn about it, you don't have to go pay a bunch of money. You can just go and find something online, and it's very credible. What was also really cool was the continuous quality improvement. So when I released the lectures, I had some small mistakes here and there, and then people would email me and say, "Hey, I don't understand." Oh, well, that's because I made a mistake. And it's wildly out of date. I had a whole lecture on what would it take for Bitcoin to be $10,000. I said, "Oh, that's pretty crazy. It's not going to happen." But because Bitcoin was like $4 at the time that when it came out, and I was just having fun. I love Austrian economics and open source software and these open ecosystems. So I said it's so cool that I get to kind of play around and do money stuff. Because we normal people can never actually have a say in how your money works. You can't go to the Federal Reserve and say, "Hey, the U.S. dollar should work this way. Stop printing money, you dummies." And now somehow we have choice in the matter as private citizens, and that's the first time in our lives where we've had that kind of liberation. And to be able to do that at scale now at nation states with millions of people, just 12 years into this, is incredible.
Yeah.
The other thing is the adoption. I was in Mongolia. I love Mongolia. If you ever go, it's one of my favorite countries in the world. And we were in the Gobi Desert, and we were hanging around with a camel herder. And he asked me through a translator what I did for a living, and I said, "Oh, well, I'm a cryptocurrency entrepreneur." And he said, "Like Bitcoin?" I was just like, how the hell does a camel herder in Mongolia know about Bitcoin? It turned out he actually owned a little bit, and his brother was holding on to it for him in the capital city, Ulaanbaatar. But just 12 years into this, the movement is so pervasive and spread, and these concepts are so pervasive and spread that a nomad living in a tent with no electricity, no running water, no internet it has actually heard of it through the grapevine, like just people word of mouth were talking about it. That's pretty remarkable.
There is a mysterious appeal that is propelling the interest down to individuals that just at face value you would not necessarily think that they would be tuned in, particularly in the middle of the Gobi Desert. It's entertaining to learn of it, and at the same time, maybe not so surprising at this. I hope you have a seatbelt because your wishes may be coming very true very quickly. Just yesterday, and that's what, when I use that word appeal, the appearance of Cardano, I think I found it rather magnetic, and one of the threads that pervasively came into the discussions yesterday was the simplification of this rather mysterious platform. I like what Cardano has managed to create a nearly frictionless pathway that can be traversed. It's not going to boat anchor those without a depth of present day understanding. I think we can feel the draw is in the fact that the team is putting fires out left and right, and it is streamlining the process where it's going to become quite clear to a novice can really get in and enjoy the benefits of what is being pushed forward at great speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the Diged paper is a great example of that, where a lot of people say, "Well, I'd hold crypto, but the problem is the volatility. The price goes way up, it goes way down. It makes it difficult for a merchant to adopt that." So what do you do about it? Well, you can create instruments that are actually value stable. So they kind of get pegged to the dollar, or they can be pegged to a more inflation resistant basket. And that can run on top of a platform like Cardano and be collateralized by ADA. So we said, well, why don't we just design one? So from the initial conversation to the actual paper to the implementation has only been a matter of 6 months. And we're getting to a point where we're actually getting ready to run experiments, and these experiments probably can be done at scale. So not just something running on the Cardano network, but potentially a nation state central bank digital currency. So a nation's money. And this is actually one of the things that's on the agenda as we go through Africa and we talk about monetary innovation of what would a Pan-African currency look like a euro for Africa, or what would a better money look like? And what's really cool is it's programmable. So once you have that, then you can start adding things to it. Like, for example, this idea of a sovereign wealth fund and universal basic income. I'm a quarter Norwegian, and Norway's got one of the largest sovereign wealth funds. It's $1.4 trillion. It's just a massive amount of money. Well, if they wanted to, they just give everybody in the country a $50,000 check. I mean, that's how much money they have on hand. And so good monetary policy there. Well, what if, like Burundi or Malawi or one of these countries adopted a CBDC, and every time a transaction happened, it generated a transaction fee, and that fee would go into a sovereign wealth fund, and then every quarter they just give a dividend to everybody in the country. It's something like that. That's an experiment that we literally could run in a 2-year, 3-year time horizon. Normally, when you talk about the money of a nation state, you're talking about decades, centuries. You're talking about huge transnational agreements. And for that to run there, and it can be done by a small group of people, 5, 10 people, and the government innovation office, and could roll out over the whole country in a matter of just a month on a cell phone, it's pretty extraordinary, and it's going to bode very good things, I think, for the future.
Yes, and not to overly brag on Cardano, but another aspect that is being addressed, and it's of value to the bystanders that are getting very curious about the whole crypto universe. The custodianship that exists, as far as I know, within the confines of what Cardano stands for, it's not out of the question to make certain that I guess I'm trying to say the spiritual nature of it all is not being ignored. The bad guys may be waiting in the wings, but they're not in the shadows. They've already been weeded out, and they're being held off. I guess it comes down to the elegance of this custodianship, because to me, what Cardano is really promising, it seems to be a stepping stone into the blockchain universe, which it is providing an enrichment of the experience. It's really cool.
Right. And, it's an interesting question of how do you get good custodianship of a decentralized organization? We haven't solved that problem as an industry yet. And, usually what ends up happening is, out of frustration or necessity, you find some sort of beneficent hero to come in like Washington on a white horse and save everybody, and then hope that he retires after he saves everybody. But usually they make themselves king for life. That's what human history has shown us. So the question is, when you go from a centralized to a decentralized ecosystem, how do you make sure the ecosystem can evolve, is legitimate, is effective, preserves its original intent and principles, but at the same time doesn't create a king or some small group of people that get a lot of power or can feast off the system? I think that's the hardest part of all the problems. The things like scalability and stability and a lot of this technological stuff, every university in the world's working on it. There's a lot of engineers working on it. We have some great ones, and our competitors have great ones, and we all learn from each other. But the governance part is, I think, you're absolutely right, the most unique component of that, because it's so easy for bad guys to come in, and they always come in with honeyed words. They always come in during a crisis and tell you how great they are and how they're going to save everything and make everything amazing. And then they don't leave after you've invited them in. It's like the vampire. Once you invite it into the house, it doesn't leave, So what's so cool is when you hold a US dollar, you have no say in how that dollar works. When you hold ADA, you have a say. Everybody who holds it can vote. Everybody in it can participate in a process. And we already have about $1 billion of ADA in the Catalyst Fund. And we have great participation there. 33,000 people participated in the last voting round. We think over 50,000 will participate this way around. It's early days. It'll grow to millions over the next few years. And suddenly the people building on it, the people holding it, the people interacting with it, they have as much say as the people who invented the system. And if you've designed it the right way with the right principles, those principles can't be violated. The moment for me where Bitcoin got great as a technology and what really legitimized the ecosystem was the failure of Mt. Gox. That was our 2008. So Mt. Gox was an exchange, and the audience who don't know, and it collapsed in 2013. And at the time, it held about 20% of all the value of Bitcoin in that one exchange. So it was like the Lehman Brothers. That collapse was catastrophic. The people who maintained Bitcoin, they had personally millions of dollars of their own money on Mt. Gox. And if they let that collapse happen without a bailout, they'd lose all their money. But they chose to let it happen because they said, we need to have integrity in the system. We can't reverse transactions. Things are immutable. You can't change the monetary policy. And that to me said, this is a fundamentally different animal than any of these social systems that we create in America or Europe or other places. Because every time a crisis happens, somebody shows up and says, all right, well, I know we have principles and integrity and commandments and constitutions, but we can't let this crisis happen. We have to just, intervene, but we won't do it again after this thing. It's too big to fail. We have to take care of it. Well, once Bitcoin didn't do that and it survived and thrived, it said you can have systems exist where that is the default behavior. The thing you read on the label, it stays that way. It's always honest. It's not going to lie to you. It's not going to change. So then the question is, what type of government can you build on top of social structures that are immutable like that? And suddenly now your voting system has that same. So no one ever questions if the vote is a problem because you can check it yourself. Suddenly your money system is this way. Suddenly all the other things that you issue there, these NFTs, people can't take them from you. Once they're issued, they're yours. And no one can go 5 years later, 10 years later, grab it out of your wallet or something like that. And so I'm really excited about that part. I think that's the biggest, most hidden gem. And I'm glad you brought it up about the cryptocurrency space as a whole, is this idea of like a law of physics for social contracts, for the way we treat each other, connect to each other, and also a return to integrity and a return to honesty. We don't have that in society right now.
You're right on it. You've hit the nail on the head. The moral standing, which has a shiny side, up until now, was maybe not so difficult in certain instances to overshadow that shiny side. I dare say that it is becoming increasingly prohibitive, and to bring it down to just common sense, the bad guys are going to have a real tough time figuring out how to trash the system. There's too many eyes available. Which is quite appealing. We've seen that shiny side darkened, but not now.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun. And what's so cool is kids get to grow up in a world where that's the default. They don't have to be cynical anymore. That's the thing that worries me the most about the way the world's going. Is usually, no matter how bad it gets you, I say, well, the next generation is going to figure it out. Those kids they'll get together and make sure it gets done. Unfortunately, the next generation, you talk to those kids, they're like, oh, it's hopeless. The whole world's on fire. I said, well, at least Billy Joel told you that we didn't start it.
Yeah. And there's a real entertaining element that overshadows anything on the negatives are already outweighed by sheer entertainment. The smile that comes into the room seems to be staying there. When you see them leaving the building with the smile still on the face, it's very encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. And we can finally have institutions that can't lie to us, and we can finally have institutions that have integrity again. They deserve that. We deserve
Start the clock. Start the clock now.
Exactly. Well, Billy, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, spend some time, and I really enjoyed it.
Indeed. Refresh my memory of your upcoming 3-week sojourn back to Africa. You go? Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm taking 2 weeks off after the summit's over, and I haven't had a vacation in a few years, and I think I'm just going to collapse and die. I used to have a lot more hair.
Yeah. Well, if you this little African hat, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm going to South Africa to start. We'll be in Cape Town with Ramaphosa's family, and then after that we move up to Burundi and Malawi, and then Zanzibar. And then Zanzibar is really cool because we have a partner there called World Mobile, and they just finished a $40 million round, so they're very well funded. And they're kind of creating like a micro ISP model where there's community ownership of the internet service provider, and then what you can do is have small businesses create internet for their communities and kind of franchise it and make profit from that. So we've been working very closely with them for about 3 years, and now they finally have the resources to actually run very significant pilots in the country of Zanzibar. And they'll be able to probably give hundreds of thousands of people internet before the end of 2022. And if that model works, we can franchise it across the entire continent of Africa and help get as many people online. Then we'll go up north to Ethiopia. We're meeting with the prime minister and a few other people. And we'll talk about everything from sovereign bonds to for hydroelectric power to digital identity. And then Kenya is probably the one I'm most looking forward to because I get to see the wildebeest migration. So there's 1.3 million of them running around, and that's going to be a chance of a lifetime. But then the other thing is the microfinance portfolio. So we have a partner there called Possessia, and we're doing a $150,000 pilot with them for small business loans and individual loans. And then once we do that legacy pilot, we're going to do a Cardano-based pilot, and then we're going to compare the non-performing loan rate of the legacy system to the blockchain-based system and see which one would outperform which. And then up to Egypt, and that's just opening the marketplace. Plus, go hang around the pyramids and all the others. It's my birthday then, so I figured it'd be fun to get a little bit of fun before I go on home.
You got to make another one. Well, this has been time well spent. I look forward to maintaining our relationship as the bulldozer is crushing through and making way for these really exciting possibilities. It's the sun will rise. I've got that feeling, but perhaps we can sit down and swap a few tall tales. I'm sure you'll be returning with a carload.
Absolutely, you got to come up my ranch one of these days. I got one in Wyoming, 11,000 acres and 500 bison, and so well more welcome to have you come on by. And I'd love to see what you guys accomplish with the NFTs on Cardano. And I know that's just the beginning, and as that grows, there's going to be a lot of really cool things that come out. And what's so exciting, there's so much creativity. There's a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, young artists too. I get their artwork all the time. This is something came from, I think, a 15-year-old gal, and she hand painted all these and sent them to me. So this is a peacock, and then I got another one right here with the bulls and the bears and me drinking a coconut drink. I guess I tweeted that picture at some point. And then what she does is she turns them to NFTs on the Cardano blockchain, and she's actually made more money than her dad made this year selling those. So she's having a good time.
Yeah, just yesterday, after hanging up from the rather intriguing meeting, I got my my scratch pad was out and about, and I did a little self-portrait there. The creative juices are definitely waiting to be ignited. So let's keep the ball rolling.
Absolutely, Billy. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Well, there you have it, folks. ZZ Top and Charles Hoskinson with the conclusion of Cardano Summit Day 1. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this live stream. We've been doing it for about 3 hours and 22 minutes. Yeah, what a day. What a day. World Mobile Token partnership, Dish partnership, Chainlink, a whole slew of things happened today. So it's good to see Cardano finally coming around. But again, guys, if you like this, like I always say, smash the thumbs up, helps with the algorithm. Subscribe if you aren't subscribed. And looking forward to tomorrow. Hopefully there's some big announcements again tomorrow. I'll try to stream some of the made ones for you guys. I don't know. But yeah, virtual world and everything, created on a turtle. It's kind of cool. Little 3D flyby. But there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night, great Saturday night. Stay safe. Crypto Airborne out.